the August 21st meeting to order at 6 a.m. Town Don Valley acknowledges the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta, which includes Blackfoot Confederacy, Member 6, Sitka, Kainai, Kainai First Nations, the Stoney Nakoda, Bearspaw, Kaniki, and Wesley First Nations, the Dene of Tsuut'ina First Nations, the Métis Nation of Region 3, and all those that make Treaty 7 land their home. We have a consent agenda. Oh, let's swear in our deputy mayor first, shall we? Do you swear? All the time. I do it all the time. Just not here tonight. Mr. CAO, I believe you have to do a little bit of this, yeah?
Hey, your worship. So, I'm smart, if you just want to read that out, please.
So you're okay with us appointing you without you?
I guess that's what happened.
Yeah.
I already told Heather, organizational meeting, I will be here. I will not skip out. I, Hazel Mark, do swear that I will diligently, faithfully, and to the best of my ability, execute according to the law, the office of deputy mayor for the town of Diamond Valley, so help me God.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nate.
So in order.
And I will try to pack the next 3 months with as much duties for you as I can.
He's gonna skip everyone.
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 I want you to do a couple of Facebook posts about budget.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, especially the.
A lot of rates are
I
going
want you to tell
in.
everybody. With our CMP house that tonight.
Yeah, yes, yes, I will deliver that message.
So bad.
Those massive escalators would be a budget conversation.
Any worship?
All right, sir, we will continue. Consent agenda, ladies and gentlemen. Just so you know, myself and Hazel attended the agenda meeting and we removed 9.6 and we brought that from the consent agenda onto regular business meeting. So Hazel, Deputy Mayor, you have one.
Council, may I ask to move the CFO bin staff report down to number, what, 9.7, 9.8?
What's up?
So just Vin's, not fire chief or community, so,
No, just bins.
okay, just Vin's, yeah.
I think we need to have a discussion on that.
Okay, 9.7 is gonna be CFO report. Okay. Anything else from consent agenda you'd like to pull, council? Minutes, police reporting. We got all that in, staying none. Okay, we have one, so I'll take the motion from you as amended.
That council amend the consent agenda
Just adopt it.
That's amended.
as amended, pardon me.
Perfect, okay, all in favor?
Mhm.
And that's carried. Thank you. And we will now move into closed session. Can I get a motion for that, please?
Sorry,
Cindy gives us that.
we adopt the regular agenda as amended.
Sorry.
That's 2.2.
Oh, sorry, yep, there it is. Yeah, I'll take that, Jonathan. So as amended. All in favor?
Yep.
Okay, now I'll take that one from Cindy for camera.
Yeah.
Okay, at 6:04 in camera, all in favor? Thank you. Can we confirm when you're ready, cameras off and lock? Ladies and gentlemen, it is 6:30, August 21st, 2024, and we are going to reconvene our business meeting for August. We started today's meeting at 6:00 on the nose, PM, of course. That will make for a long day. We were on military time, so at 6:00. No, we don't need that. We're trying to get out of here before midnight tonight, so I'm going to keep my comments brief, right? Okay, so we started at 6 o'clock. We went into a closed session of council under section 27-1. We came out at 6:13. We had a brief recess and now we're reconvened. So motions arising from closed meeting are nil. And we have question period. Question period is a 15-minute section of the council meeting in which we give the public an opportunity to ask questions of council or administration. You can phone, you can text, you can call, you can ask a councilor on your behalf. But we would prefer it when we direct you through administration so they can document, answer the questions if there's any staff time appropriated, which usually is. And then we get to read it out here. So I do have only this one this evening. Is that correct, CAO Davey?
That's right, your worship.
Thank you. This is from Miss Jackie Cassidy. Good afternoon, Verna. Verna. Right in here. I would like to submit the following 3 questions for the August 21 council meeting. This is a follow-up question that was given to me or paused for concern. It resulted from the response Mr. Beaton kindly provided regarding my Willow Ridge replacement railing query. Why is Mr. Beaton's department understaffed by 30%? Taxes? Oh, that's not the answer. The Civic Operations Department is currently experiencing higher than normal medical and otherwise leaves of absence. Where possible, limited casual backfills are being used to maintain service levels. We expect to return to normal staffing levels by this fall. And subsequent to that, I believe we had another email that said within the month we should be in construction. So that's good. Number 2, why is council not seeking resident members for the 2023 Diamond Valley Parks, Pass and Recreation Committee after disbanding the previous such committee of Turner Valley and Black Diamond? The town has 0 job or committee postings internally and or externally as of August 16th, 2024. I do check this regularly. The answer is before a new Parks and Rec plan can be explored, the town of Diamond Valley's inaugural municipal development plan needs to be completed. This is one of the town's top strategic priorities for the next year. The MDP steering committee was formally stood up on the July council meeting, and the committee members will be announced later in tonight's agenda. We expect the kickoff meeting to occur in a couple of weeks' time. Completion of the MDP is the first and most important step to initiate many other plans, such as the Parks and Rec plan, which ought to be one of the next plans on the list. Following completion of this MDP, a committee will be explored late next year to restart Parks and Rec planning as part of the budget 2026. And Heather?
To also add to that, that we did advertise for Parks and Recs committee members for quite some time, and we only got 1, 2. So we advertised for that for quite a few months actually, and we didn't get any responses. So just adding on to that. So we did advertise it for quite some time.
Thank you, and that is absolutely correct. We also did the road safety, pedestrian safety, and we got 0 applications for that. So good call. Number 3, has amalgamation created continued service efficiencies and cost effectiveness for residents? Please provide one example if possible. Copy and paste the strengths and opportunities bullets from the post amalgamation report, which is in this agenda actually. This is only a small list of the operational from the operational perspective. Council may have additional comments from a community perspective. But in bullet point form, I will just go from here. 2 council comprised of 14 elected, consolidated into 1 unified council of 7 members. There's a savings. 2 management teams consolidated into 1 management team, 1 CAO. There's a savings. Consolidation of public works, infrastructure, capitals, planning projects, etc. Unified grant application opportunities versus competing grant applications. Consolidated and unified fire department, best fire department ever. Civic operations and civic events as well. Best celebrations ever. Professionalism transition, corporate functioning, financial systems, planning alignments, documents, processes, planning, staffing opportunities, organizational orientation towards future growth and planning, which best planning department ever, moving towards proactive posture for upcoming town growth and development. Consolidated and divestment of aging infrastructure towards fewer assets that can be sustained into longer term. Conduct a comprehensive asset management plan and fund a long-term renewal. That's an ongoing piece of work that we started, we hiccuped on, and it's got to come back to priority list. So it's one of those ongoings. Multi-purpose staff training to develop generalists to fill a variety of front-facing roles. This may allow for depth in built-in critical positions, restructuring activities up to include succession management, planning, and aligning skill sets to service requirements. And it helps to fill some of those positions that have some of those leaves and leaves of absence. In particular, you have overlap where people can help fill those voids. Modernization of all administrative systems using technology. For example, 311, AI, new financial software, tools to reduce staff time and enable customers better management of their own services. You see that in our digital $2 versus paper versus getting your bills online, automated permits and utility bills, for example. And start anew, although a municipality is a growing concern that evolves over many decades. As a newly amalgamated municipal corporation, the town is in a unique position to make rapid changes, both operationally and culturally, that better fit the larger societal pace of change. And thank you very much, Jackie, for that query. All right, that concludes the question period. So we will move on. Motions arising from question period. I will ask, could we get, seeing Craig's in the room, an actual up-to-date date on the railing in question?
Probably, Your Worship, I'll turn it over to Mr. Beaton.
Yeah, we're working towards having that installed for the end of the month.
Oh, nice.
Perfect, thank you. Alrighty. Statutory hearings, we have none. Delegations, we have none. Bylaws and policies, 8.1, cash in lieu parking policy.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'll turn it over to Municipal Liaison.
Carrie? After you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The question on the floor for you today regards the cash in lieu of parking policy. In the implementation section of the downtown area redevelopment plan, it was identified that this policy should be brought forward for discussion from council. The report goes into reasons why we have the policy, such as it allows for redevelopment notification to occur on sites where parking can't easily be met. Parking is a collective good and collective responsibility, so the cash in lieu supports provision of parking that's available to the general public, and pedestrian infrastructure connects movement between parking spaces and destinations. The parking cash in lieu of parking policy requires any funds that are collected to be utilized for parking or pedestrian infrastructure within the general area that they are collected for. In lieu of why the policy was implemented in the first place, the goals of the downtown area redevelopment plan and modern best practice and industry norms, we are recommending at this point in time for council to repeal the cash in lieu of parking policy and its associated procedure.
Council, Holiday, you're up.
Yeah, just curious, repealing it tonight, what effect it would have on recent MPC decisions that there was, I know one development recently that was assigned a cash in lieu. Is this still retroactive if they hadn't paid it yet, or they still, and now we're gonna hear from them that they just paid a large sum of money and then we repealed it a couple of weeks later? Just curious about that.
So all development permits are enabled to have 1 year to start their development. If they don't, and if the conditions of the permit aren't met within that year, they have an option to either extend or the permit's considered invalid. One of the conditions, as you said, was to pay in accordance with the cash in lieu policy. If there is no cash in lieu policy, that condition of their permit just kind of goes away.
Go ahead.
Just as a quick follow-up to Councillor Holiday, this is something that's been discussed on both sides and goes back several years, even on the Turner Valley side. And parking seems to be such an issue in our towns, in our town now, especially in the central business area. And I really appreciate the work and the background that you provided here and moving forward to repeal this cash in lieu policy as suggested.
Hazel.
Carrie, will these funds just stay in an account until you need to make any repairs to, say, a sidewalk or anything like that? In front of the business that has paid for the cash in lieu, the parking?
So through the mayor, the balance of the GL has that 77,000 and change. It's from 3 properties. The intent is that that stays in the reserve fund where it was collected under until such a time that I can work with civic operations to come up with some viable projects for that money to be utilized in proximity to. So we're still gonna honor the purpose and intent of why it was collected, because it is in that reserve account for that reason.
Okay, so it could potentially be used for a parking lot or like for the town to maybe purchase a parcel of land and create a parking lot?
Potentially, $77,000 doesn't go terribly far.
Yeah,
So again, it would be looking at what our strategic priorities are regarding vehicular and pedestrian infrastructure in the areas around those 3 parcels and businesses where we collected it.
okay. You couldn't just give the funds back to those businesses, could you?
I would have to get further legal advice on that.
Okay, thank you very much, Carrie.
Heather, Brendan? So I guess I got a couple of questions / concerns. One, how long approximately did it take us to actually bank up $77,000?
The cash and lieu collections were made between 2010 and 2021.
So 11 years to get to 77,000. And with 77,000, because I want to clear for the public, you can only use the dollars collected, and I'll use Eau Claire, for example, because I was part of the process when we collected for, I think, 8 stalls, give or take, so about 10, 12 grand. You can only use that money that was allocated from that development permit for parking cash in lieu in that general area. So if we wanted a speed sign, the money could probably buy that. But we couldn't take that same money and buy one for the top of Sunset because it's not in the general area of the business where the cash in lieu was collected.
That is planning's interpretation of the policy.
Exactly. So that's what I wanted to make clear, because when you have congestion or high density and you only have dollars that can be used in that zone, you're very limited in scope of what you actually can do. So that's why I use that as an example. We can put up a pedestrian sign at the corner that blinks.
We can mark some crosswalks.
We could, yeah, we could mark some crosswalks, right? So, so it's not a huge, portion of cash, 7 grand a year, but it is some cash. But they come in very fleetingly and very sparse, and some of them won't be in places that actually matter. So if you were doing a duplex or something where you did a cash in lieu, you can't really do anything with that money, and that's why I think we're seeing it. When you look at the pros and cons, the merits to and full, right? So flexible, adequate parking flexibility, reduce street congestion, increases revenue, encourages alternate transportation, reduces urban sprawl, and so on. But I digress. I just wanted to make it clear as to how the money can be spent and why, why would you throw away $77,000? Well, no, because we can't spend it where we want. It's very limited in its scope. Heather.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to recall that actually 2 parking lots were built in Black Diamond using the cash in lieu funding. One is across the street from, it's public parking across the street from the doctor's office. And the other is east of the, I can't remember the name of that store.
The consignment store.
Yeah, the consignment store. There's a public parking spot there. So that one does get filled up pretty good when there's events or things going on down in the core there. And the one across the street from the doctor's office, it's utilized fairly well too. So I'm just not sure, yeah, there's $77,000 now. Black Diamond does have 2 public parking spaces. Turner Valley does not. And so, and if I recall, when we redid the land use bylaw, we took this out. Did we not?
Yeah.
So, I don't know if we're biting our noses off in spite of our face by not keeping this in place to some degree, because we won't have any money, and parking isn't cheap to create proper parking lots. And we're gonna grow, and there's not gonna be any place to park. So that's just my comments on it. I don't know if it's a good idea to repeal this.
Thank you. Cindy?
I'm actually in support of repealing it, and I really liked how you pointed out that it's the challenge that it's not clear whether you can charge it multiple times on the same property, you know, with different development permits. To me, that just seems like a really unfair, weird situation that could happen if you have a business changing multiple times. But for me, I think there's other better ways for the towns to raise funds. If we need a parking lot, we can increase our mill rate for our commercial businesses and use that money. Because this you're at the mercy of a development or sporadic, you can't count on it. So if you actually have a project that needs to be done and it benefits the commercial area, it should just be an increase in the commercial mill rate with the funds going. To me, that's a way simpler way of raising funds than this.
Okay, excellent. I'll also point out in the staff report, very well done. A business isn't going to start a business if it doesn't have the foot traffic and know that it can attract and retain a certain amount of clients to shop. So they're the professionals, they know what they need, and if they can't service the amount of traffic requirements they need, they're not gonna build it there. So very, very good point on that as well, so. All right, I'll take a motion when you're ready.
You're good. I propose option 3, that council repeals the cash in lieu of parking policy and directs administration to prepare the amendments to remove parking minimums from the Black Diamond land use bylaw for the central business district.
Thank you. Further comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you, that is carried. Good debate, thank you. Bylaw 2024. 8.2 here. Bylaw 2024-77 to amend the property responsibility bylaw. Mr. Davey.
Thanks, worship. I'll turn it over to Brenna.
The RFD, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. The amendments we're looking for here are just clarity of wordings and easiness of understanding for the public of what their responsibilities are. So they're fairly simple amendments. There are no questions. You can give the bylaw 1, 2, or all 3 readings tonight.
Thank you, council. Gordon.
Yeah, I was hoping some of our CPOs would be here, so hopefully administration can answer the question I have. I'm gonna give you a hypothetical. Because as I go through and I read the definition of unsightly premises, it's got several points listed there. But let's say I decide to have a yard sale on my property, and I keep that yard sale going so that it becomes unsightly because it's got all the items out on my yard sale or on my front yard for time indefinite. There's nothing, the way I read the unsightly premises, there's nothing in our bylaw that handles that currently, other than that general statement that begins that section on page, let's find that. When it had the definitions there at the top of page.
I think he's got it up there right now.
Yeah, there you go. The unsightly premises means any premises, dwelling, building, or parts or other clearly show signs of neglect. Couple of concerns I have for this. In other municipalities I've lived, it applies as well to businesses that have street sales. There's a dedicated time only when they can have their property out on their sidewalk, when they have sidewalk sales. And I don't see anything that can respond to this. So I'm just wondering if there's a way. My suggestion is this: add a definition. And I have the definition here that we could include as a bulleted point. Any land, residential or commercial, upon which goods for sale or offered free are displayed after 8 p.m. or prior to 8 a.m. Therefore, the owner would be responsible to put that property inside and then pull it back out the next day.
Oh, go ahead.
Just a question, just a point of clarity, would this be added to the unsightly premise definition?
Yeah, I would like to see it added specifically so that there's no gray area as to how long somebody can have a pile of free goods sitting on their driveway because they want to get rid of it, as opposed to taking it to the dump.
I mean, it's very specific, and I understand the purpose, and I think I know of the specific property that may be generating the purpose of this request. The issue with going too specific is that, like, you put a time in now, you know, people are now taking advantage of that, and now they can interpret that so they can have unsightly property between the hours of now, whatever the time in the morning, and it creates that potential, that interpretation.
Sure.
So whereas in this specific case, there is no time of day. If your property is deemed to be more so in the sign you're talking about, which is lack of maintenance, cleanup, or upkeep, this specific case, there is no time definition, whether you're doing that every night or you're doing that for months. You can be addressed as a complaint and you can be addressed to or directed to clean it up. If you start putting times in there, I get that would be my one constraint, you start putting timeframes in there. There are those people who will stretch that famous saying, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yeah.
Now they'll feel free to have unsightly property between those hours of the day, potentially. I mean, you do have very specific wording, so I don't know if that would be taken advantage of, but.
It's a point, I know when one of the other municipalities I lived, and where I worked, we did sidewalk sales. And it was very specific as to how often we could do it, as well as times of day that it could be, but there's nothing beyond overnight. So it's just something, you know, obviously, without going into specifics, we know the property we're talking about. However, I've seen as well, after some yard sales, they'll make a pile at the end of their driveway, cover it with plastic, and then uncover it the next day. And that can lead to some unsightly, especially when wind picks up.
Yep.
So I would like to see us have a little bit more teeth in this unsightly premises, specifically with this, so that our bylaw, our enforcement officers are actually able to present the bylaw as stated and present it as very clear. You know, I'm huge on unsightly premises, I really am. And I want us to have some clarity. I think it's too general when we say any premises, dwelling, building, park that clearly show signs of neglect. That's objective or subjective, pardon me. You know, somebody can say, well, I have it orderly. You know, I have it on a desk or a table, or I have it on a display rack. That's not the point. The point is that the manner in which it's displayed and the continuity of it creates an unsightly premises.
Yeah, because it's subsection E there, which is really what would qualify under most of those properties, which is the surplus, disused, damaged, or stored household or commercial chattels. That's really what majority of that material would kind of generally fall under.
Yeah.
There is also language under the traffic bylaw that speaks to what can be displayed on a sidewalk and stuff like that. So there are some rules about displaying of signs and obstructions of a sidewalk per se. But that doesn't apply to the specific property, which I know I'm referring to. So it becomes difficult. I can tell you that unsightly properties become a legal nightmare.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about objectiveness, I'll use an example that's being quite widely used in case law, which is a case in Victoria, which people have put, they literally had lawn chairs hanging in their trees. That's how disarray their property was. But they were able to go to court and successfully win against the municipality that the lawn chairs in their trees were considered abstract art. And it was dismissed that it was an unsightly property. So in terms of the objectiveness, it's pretty difficult on unsightly properties, and it has to be very much complaint driven is a big part of it. So there has to be people who feel that there's unsightly properties. And another part of it is that it has to be very, very obvious, very much disruptive to the neighborhood, land sale value, stuff like that. So it does become a difficult case. It's why when people drive down the streets, they see unsightly properties right now. It's not as simple as municipal enforcement going and say, go clean up your yards.
100%.
It can be months of trying to do due diligence. You have to give time for them to comply, various levels of compliance. And then ultimately at the end of the day, we can go in and clean it up.
Yeah, and just to conclude, that's my thinking as to the time frame.
Yeah.
Because it keeps it broad.
Yeah.
But it restricts when it can be done.
I mean, personally, I don't see any red flag right off the top of my head with the definition being added, but Vern is definitely the wordsmith.
Brendan.
Sorry, let's go first.
I was just thinking, I think there might also be, and I apologize, I can't say this for sure, but I think there might be another tool in the toolkit in the business license bylaw too, that talks about the ongoing garage sale. So it might be easier to bring this one back to you.
If,
I wouldn't mind it coming back to us only because I don't want to duplicate other bylaws, but if it's in the business license bylaw, I don't have to have a business license to operate a yard sale, right? So would there be, like, I didn't even think of reading that. I should have done some research prior.
I believe that there's something in there about the ongoing one now being classed as a business and requiring all of the goodies. So it could be shut down for operating without a license, but I'd have to bring that one back for sure too.
I just want the mechanism.
Brendan.
Yeah, so just some further, and I appreciate your points here, Councillor Gordon. And TJ, I appreciate your input as well. And so just to kind of muddy the waters a little bit more, you know, we've got a couple donation bins, one that sits outside the rink and one that sits at AG Foods. And oftentimes those things are heavily overflown. Today, there's bins all over the ground. That's pretty unsightly. Not sure where the teeth come in and how timeline, because now you're looking at volunteers or, you know, part business who come and collect those items. Where do they fall into that? So I think we should have a little bit more discussion about it to see, because as soon as we implement a time, and then all of a sudden Mark's getting a call or Craig at the rink's getting a call saying, look, there's all this stuff, there's, you know, baby equipment and everything sitting outside, and there's hockey this weekend and it's been here for a week. So I see it every day when I drop my kids off at daycare at the rink. So, and I know that it's, you know, for the most part, people are doing it out of the goodness of their heart. Oftentimes, and other times it's garbage, that people don't want to bring to the landfill, unfortunately. So, yeah, we're gonna have to kind of wade through that. Yeah, because putting a time in for our residents and business owners is one thing, but then when we're looking at these donation things and other things like that, it can get a little bit tricky. Well, that person has all that stuff. So just want to point that out as well. Something to look at.
Great point. And we'll Heather, then Cindy.
Yeah, thank you, Brendan. You know, that's a good one to bring up because, yeah, they're really bad right now. And one of the problems is if it's strollers or baby stuff or anything like that, none of the places will take that stuff anymore.
It says right on the bins.
Baby stuff, and they just won't take it, even if you take it down to the great big Missions thrift store in Okotoks, they won't take any of that stuff. They redirect you, like somewhere else. Playpens, that kind of stuff. It's kind of posted right on the bins, like don't put it in there. And so, you know, that would be a really nice thing if we can deal with that at the same time. And one of the pieces of art that used to be hanging in Black Diamond for an unsightly is I've got this one trumped. It wasn't lawn chairs, it was full out cars pulled up a pole. Right?
All right.
Winner, pants on fire.
I'll go to Cindy. I think we're all on the same page. We're looking to see this come back with some teeth and.
Yeah, well, I did just have two questions. Is it something that we can look at doing? We had a disaster with the bins, you know, offering the big dumpster, and then everyone from the county came to fill them up. But can we look at maybe in 25 doing a large item like a spring cleanup where you register your house and one week we have a dump truck come around and pick up registered large items from people as a. It would come at a cost to taxpayers, and I hate to, but the reality is you do have some people that do not have trucks, don't have friends with trucks, which seems weird in Alberta. But it does happen because they are not taking some items to the landfill. So just wondering if that could be considered I did have a question, going back to the original question, it is mowing and who's in charge of the municipal oversight. Swales is something, because we've had an email recently asking about swales, and it's not part of the property responsibility bylaw. But where does that come in as to who is in charge of mowing or maintaining swales? Because I know the boulevard in front is the landowner, but like I know when we lived in Seclusion Valley, there was some weird swale system and yeah. I don't need the answer. I'm happy to approve this bylaw or do whatever, but I did want to know that.
Yeah, thanks for street, sir. You're referring to, can you define swell for me? Like-
Or that drainage.
The ditch,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
The trace, yeah.
Maybe I'll just bring in Mr. B. Can you just explain, sort of the difference here and, you know, I mean, fundamentally, the town can do it. I'll just keep adding costs. It's no problem.
Yeah, so through the chair, ditches, swales, they're not straightforward. Some of them are in the county, some of them are in towns, some of them are on agricultural spaces. So it gets a little complex. I can speak specifically to the one in Seclusion Valley as an example. Town was required to purchase a piece of agricultural land to incorporate a swale to capture some of the overland water that flowed across into that community. And generally in that area, the only maintenance we would do on that swale would be for legislated weed notifications and inspections to ensure that that swale remains open or flowing. Another swale, for example, would be behind Sunrise Hill, right on the very west side of Turner Valley or west of Diamond Valley. That swale is on private property, but the town maintains it. So once a year, we go in and make sure that the residents haven't tossed all their organics into the swale or other debris, and we make sure that that swale remains open. If it's a ditch, again, it depends on where that ditch is. If it's on a rural road such as 16th Ave, we're not going to mow those ditches. Many reasons why we wouldn't. We don't have the equipment for it, but the ditches are steep. And then other ditches, we might not do it just for maintenance. The level of maintenance that would require to staff and or equip ourselves to maintain ditches. So they are a complex issue.
So I guess my question was just, did we miss something in here? But it sounds like it's a one-off, every one has their own specifics, it's not something we can capture in the property responsibility. Thank you.
Especially when it falls into that private property realm as well. That's really where a lot of these things take place, and precedents in the past may have happened, but a lot of cases, those things have been overlooked and we're not in that world anymore. Jonathan, and then we're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah, real quickly here, and Craig, I'll put you on the spot again. I'm always hesitant going on a private property with town employees and town equipment. Do we have a hold harmless agreement in writing with those residents?
Through the chair, Councillor Gordon, that development was long before my time, and I sadly, it's just a practice that we've engaged in since I've been here. It's primarily just to ensure that that swale remains flowing and open. I know insurance wise we're covered, as far as residents' relations with the town. I'm not sure if there's an agreement.
All right, I will take a motion.
Okay, first motion that council gives bylaw 2024-77 to amend bylaw 2023-23, the property responsibility bylaw first reading.
Okay, just to be clear, before I call a vote, we could vote this, we can go in favor, we can add revisions as we discussed some of our concerns, and at second reading, we could bring that back as amended, yes? Just to be clear, just to get the ball rolling.
We could.
Just
just as a recommendation, your worship, there are several properties that are currently being dealt with under this bylaw. These clarifications will strengthen our ability to deal with them. If this is to come back in September, council meeting for further readings, these, are basically end of September, beginning of October, we're gonna lose our window to gain compliance for unsightly properties. Because as soon as the weather change, you basically become unable to ask for compliance until the weather turns nice again. So by closing these, by clarifying some of these potential loopholes now, it will give the municipal enforcement department to continue to gain compliance at the end of the summer. And then those further suggestions and clarification that Councillor Gordon were asking for, it would be an opportunity for us to further research some of the examples, perhaps where he lived in the past, and to also maybe look at rather than being a bit more hasty, take a little closer look at what he was suggesting and to see if that creates any other loopholes prior to bringing it back. Because as we're seeing with these new bylaws, they're very wordy, they're very lengthy. There are things that we're finding out ourselves, there are things we're finding out from community members, there are things we're finding out from experts that have weighed in after reviewing them, that we want to start to clean these up. So we're going to have more opportunity to come back and find opportunity to continue to enhance these bylaws. This is just step one. I think we'll have an opportunity to come back again to do it again. That would be my comments.
Thank you for that comment. How does that sound?
I'll make the motion after we're done with this.
Perfect. Excellent. Further comments? All good? All in favor?
Teacher, that swayed me, man.
I didn't, that was, I didn't want to say it out loud.
That was good.
That
No,
was good.
I was thinking, no. And then the more he talked, I'm like, all right.
Yes. First one's passed. Give me a second.
Second, I'll give second reading.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions, concerns? Oh, teacher. All in favor? Why don't you give me, to here.
Yeah, we're, the council gives the bylaw 2024-77. Agrees to give third reading at this meeting.
Thank you. All in favor? That is unanimous as required. And Hazel.
Me, that council gives bylaw 2024-77 to amend bylaw 2023-23, the property responsibility bylaw, third and final reading.
Thank you. Last chance. Any comments, concerns, questions? Councilor Gordon has a motion following this. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilor Gordon.
Yeah, quick motion here that council directs administration to review definitions under unsightly premises regarding land upon which goods are for sale.
Also, garage sales. A definition of garage sale.
To also include a definition for garage sales.
Then somehow.
That'd probably be a second one, because that's actually,
That's going to be unsightly.
I could say that the bins are covered. We have the means to deal with the bins already.
Okay.
okay, well, like the donation ones? Yeah. Thanks, TJ.
Yeah, very good. All right.
And that is succinct enough?
Police officer house. Where's that?
Who needs that?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good
Yeah.
motion. Verna, have you captured?
Yeah.
All right, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on, funding policy, let me see where we're at, 8.3. Policy Council 021, Fund Development Policy, Mr. Davey.
Thank you, worship. I will turn it over to Minik.
All right. Ms.
Thank you very much, Sue, Davey. And thank you, council. I am putting before you consideration of council policy number 021, the fund development policy. This essentially is to establish a fair and open process by which the town would solicit sponsorship or donations. It's also an effort to increase revenues and reduce costs as they relate to events and special projects. It consolidates all of the department's efforts as well into one process. Therefore, we wouldn't find ourselves competing against one another or potentially overlapping to the same businesses for sponsorship dollars. And then finally, it also provides a mutually beneficial partnership between the organizations which sponsor and the town. So there's a fair amount of detail in here regarding how we would go about that. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to try and answer them.
Thank you very much, Mr. LeBlanc. I was gonna say this is a very well done document. I love the definitions and how you outlined every possible right to the record keeping. It's very well done. So I would open it up to council if you have any questions around this one. This is pretty solid work right here. So if I don't see any, I'm gonna go for motions. So I'll take them. Cindy?
That council approved policy, council -021 fund development policy as presented. And I'll agree with Mayor. Well done.
Excellent. Alrighty, any further comments, concerns, questions? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to the big one. Here's the big fish. We're going on to 9.1 RCMP Municipal Services Agreement, MPSA for short, because we know you love your acronyms. So why don't you guys come on up to the hot seat here? And you're just gonna hit the red button if you need it. And we may or may not have a whole bunch of questions. We don't know yet.
Thanks, your worship. So I'm just gonna introduce this one. So yeah, as we know, we're 2 years into amalgamation. So as of April 1st, 2025, the town has to enter into a municipal police services agreement for us to cover the larger portion of police costs. So what we're trying to look for now is a council decision to move forward with the most cost efficient option to provide policing services. Of course, as you mentioned, the RCMP are here to answer the questions.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Gordon or Brendan said, why don't we have them as delegation? I said, oh, they're here now. We always call that the hot seat, however, you're not in the hot seat. But we do have some financial implications and we definitely want to vocalize them and make sure you as well as us and the public understand that these costs are coming forward and there's not a lot that the federal government cares to do about it. So we want to make sure that this is very clear and concise as to how we got to where we are, the processes that we got in. So I will call it some in-kind favors for last year. We didn't have to pay some of those bills and that was good. So with that being said, we have the report in front of us, council. Would you like to ask questions of our RCMP? Now I'm going to go right through the first page with some of the costs. Would you guys like to add anything before we just go through these costs?
I'll just take the opportunity to say thank you again for having us here. We are looking forward to entering into this contract with Diamond Valley. We are fully committed to being, your service provider if that's the choice you make today. And we understand the understandable concern about costs and how they kind of affect the community, the taxpayers, and the residents. And of course, as you all know, our job is to provide a service. The decision around contracts are negotiations that happen between federal, provincial, territorial governments. And, the one thing I can say is the RCMP has a lot of experience with this. And so while it is undoubtedly a lot of information to take in, it's not like we're creating a new contract from scratch. There's a precedent and it's been worked out, I believe, over the years in a way that it tries to be fair and equitable to all contract partners so that that it can be transparent. And the multi-year financial plan, which are forecasts, are based on the latest information that was available at the time of production. Our financial people do err on the side of, we'd rather, because they can do adjustments for you quarterly based on, because you're only billed the actual costs. And those things will vary, but we'd rather have the variance be on the somewhat downside. We're of course not going to inflate numbers and result in you making decisions that are not not based on sound data. And there is those documents that you would receive that provides very detailed kind of analysis as to how these estimates and forecasts are created. And I'm happy, obviously, happy to take any questions you have and appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Thompson and then I'll go to Councillor Gordon.
Just for clarity for the public, these increases were coming whether we amalgamated or not, correct? Like, we were good, either if we stayed Blackdown and Turner Valley way back when, for the public's, these increases were gonna hit us no matter what.
So it's all about population. I do
Right.
think at some point because of the, this is a growing community. I mean, you know your population stats better than I do, but so driving in here today, I was again struck every time I go here by the beauty of the area and proximity to employment centers, major centers, Calgary, the biggest city in this province. Once a community that is considered a municipality exceeds 5,000, it is not a choice. Until you reach 5,000, you fall under a different costing, which is under the police funding model, and it's a provincial contract. So
Correct. Yeah, like I understand that, but we had paid extra RCMP costs before we amalgamated each town individually.
you starting, I can't wait, remember what year.
20.
When they started the police funding model, there was costs being provided to all ratepayers, including county, any ratepayer.
Yeah.
And those costs were a new model. It's a model which assisted the government of Alberta to provide funding, of course, directly towards policing. I would also say that even prior to that, you were paying to some degree indirectly through taxes, although it wasn't a line item on your budget. But yeah,
Right, so because I just remember that we talked about that, whether we should just apply it as we do the education taxes to our tax rate bylaw, we would apply the new RCMP costs to the tax rate bylaw, and it would flow through that way. We had different scenarios because this was 2 years, I think, before that these additional costs were applied before we amalgamated. So we knew that, and I think each town was potentially at $300,000 each town at that time, so 600,000. So just for clarity to the public, this isn't happening simply because we amalgamated. This was already happening. The models were already being prepared prior to amalgamation. I get that once we hit 5,000, then we had to enter into an agreement. But we were getting some of these increased costs separately before amalgamation.
yeah, I definitely understand your question, and I think we all want the public to have a clear understanding of things. I want to also be candid about my own as a contract provider, and that's one of the things in other council meetings that we've discussed is the other factors like police grants and like those are things that are not that's not within the RCMP's purview. We don't get involved in those negotiations. The federal government, to have some consistency across the country, has put the 5,000 as being an MPSA, and 15,000 is a different type of MPSA. Below 5,000, it's a provincial government decision and one that I understand, and but that can be different in every province, and therefore it's not really, it's more of a question for the provincial government than me.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Gordon and Councillor Hall.
Yeah, thanks again for this report. Question I have here, and just to give some background for our residents, as we look forward, we have the model over the next 4 years as to what we're going to be expanding and what the costs will be. Can you identify for us what the key drivers are pushing those inflationary pressures? We look at year 2026 is 877,000 and change. And within 3 years' time after that, we're looking at 1.1 million. So quite a significant increase there, 23%, give or take. What are the key drivers that will lead to that increase? What's the estimation that you're basing that on?
So the financial reports are prepared by the operational strategy branch in the finance department. In preparation for this meeting, I was looking at the fiscal year costs, which is how the RCMP operates and provides their estimates. I understand all municipalities are legislated to, operate on a calendar year. And so those numbers have been converted by the CFO, is my understanding, to ensure you have that information as well. In terms of what actually caused the increases to go up further there, there is a 31-page report that I'd have to refer to, and happy to take a look at that if you'd like. I believe it was provided. But it's so detailed and the line items, because to be candid, I'm not sure what those, because there's obviously will be evident in the report, although we may require close reading. I do know they did an updated one between the first one we provided to the city administration and the second one within really a couple of weeks. Because as soon as the RCMP settled a new contract, they immediately wanted to now, they want to operate based on knowns as much as possible. And then of course, forecasts. My suspicion, but I would like, I'd ask either for time to look at the document or is that though, and these numbers are across the board, this is not like a tailored one based on Diamond Valley, it's very simple. Like, they update all the financial plans in the exact same way. The only thing that is tailored is how many full-time resources are required. And so, and that's why sometimes they'll also refer to the cost per employee or police officer. But I suspect it's around either forecast around the new pistol, because the RCMP pistol has been around the Smith & Wesson for like, I don't know, like 30 or so years. It's no longer being manufactured by Smith & Wesson. It could be around the pistol rollout. I know body worn camera is coming sooner than that and should be reflected in actually this year's financial plan even, but over the next few years. Similarly, another development that is a cost that's factored in is our carbine ratios based on the Moncton shooting report. Those have changed slightly. And so every time they get a new either legislative requirement, because some of these things were legislated to have, and other ones are, occupational health and safety and Canada Labor Code. Those things are factored in. I'm trying to think, there was also a TASER 7 that's come online, but again, those costs are being in the front end, not in the back end. So my informed, guess for looking at the document is around the pistol rollout. That's unless, and maybe Dawn could, if there's anything else that you could, and I'm happy to take a few minutes and if you need to, for me to look at it, and it's certainly in the document, it'll be there. And if it's not there, it may not be like very easy, that you may have to take some inferences, but I can get that question answered and provide back through Mr. Davey.
Go ahead, Brent. Yeah, just a quick follow-up for Councilor Harley. Any projection in terms of maybe additional officers at that time because of population growth? Would that be part of the report that maybe other than a revolver?
So I don't believe that there's any, that we built in a projection around additional officers. The municipal contract gives you the ability and the opportunity to call up additional employees if you want to do it based on, a specific need that you want to identify, a school resource officer position that's dedicated for that role. The workload analysis, which we provided in other reports, does indicate that we have room to grow with population based on workload. So I don't think that that's the factor, because the 4 FTE is really the minimum size attachment you can have. And it wasn't only driven by workload, it was also driven by the need for enough coverage for a shift schedule to allow for backup officer safety. So I think I don't think there's any speculation as to what you may call up in the future in this report.
So largely just equipment.
I would say equipment, perhaps some forecasts. It's possible around energy costs, around, they factor all those things into fuel. But I do think, what we know about salaries are the current collective agreement, I believe, was just signed in its 2 years. And so they've added those in. But some of the costs of that collective agreement, which have been publicly reported in the media, they're actually taking place right now. So you won't be paying the $2,500 signing bonus as part of a collective. It was arbitration actually that resulted in that. And the RCMP, I'll just add, because the topic of salaries can be sensitive.
You're reverting.
Yeah. And the RCMP was one of the last police forces to have a union. And as a result, during the stage of, going into forming a union, and as a senior officer, I'm not represented by a union, but I am, I'm aware of that process. And legislatively, all the terms and conditions are frozen until and that took quite a long time. So we fell behind most police services in Canada, in areas, Alberta especially. And so the 2 contracts that we've seen that have been, significant, I think, compensation packages brought us back in line with the other police services. So
Appreciate it.
Second, Davey, and then I'll go Cindy.
Sorry, Worship, just to kind of jump on the superintendent mentioned there, that document again, that details all of that, I could share with council. It's not public, but keep in mind there's pages and pages, and you can see where those ins and outs are, should you wish.
Excellent. Thank you. Cindy.
Yeah, my question had been about collective agreements, because it seems like it's a pretty reasonable, like $30,000 a year goes up until that 2029 is the big jump. It's like 130,000. So that's the one that I think had something, to me, inflation and wage adjustments. I don't know if it's like teachers or something where you get like 1 or 2% a year. And so to me, it's the 2029 number that I'm wondering if this is out. That's not an inflationary, that means there's something different in 2029.
Sorry, Peter, I'm just doing a control find as we speak, but I won't allow myself to distract from you. I really do believe this is related to equipment. I mean, as I'm looking at, there's an informatics plan from 25 to 2029, 30. There's a police vehicle plan in those periods. There is also the pistol rollout. I believe, like, it's not just a guess, it's, I know we're actively talking about it. The procurement process for a pistol rollout that involves, I don't know, 30, 40,000 pistols has taken quite a bit of time. And when that rolls out, although even like that process is still sealed, it's cabinet confidence. I don't know what the solution is, like what who the vendor is going to be. But there is definitely, anytime there's a pistol rollout, there is a significant amount of training that has to happen. So that training costs money. In terms of hiring extra people, that fits into Dividend. You guys aren't paying for all the trainers or anything. We've already got a plan. We've already hired or great with funding from the provincial government, have dedicated training people that would be able to assist with that. But the actual procurement of that, I do believe is probably, and like I say, I do not believe it's salary, because they did adjust the salary figures based on the new contract. And then, of course, other than that, they've taken standard inflationary kind of growth of salaries across, a representative sample. Much, I don't know whether it's policing or public sector or private sector, but it's not a massive inflationary. It's like cost of inflation generally, and is my understanding. And then on top of that, so that many years out, they don't have any hard numbers around that. So that significant a jump, in my mind, there's going to be a clear piece. And if we can't find it quickly, Rita Ramkisson, who was on MS Teams at one of our meetings, she would know like this. But so
Thanks.
good question.
Follow up, Cindy?
I guess the sticker shock that comes with it is that it's not a problem with the RCMP, because we all know running a municipality that with inflation, everything's gone up. The problem has been that the grant has stayed stagnant. It looks like the 244 is what you're expecting for the next 4 or 5 years. And I'm assuming it's been at the same level for the last few years. So if RCMP's been going up 30 grand a year, but the grant's been staying the same. We looked at it back in 2021 when we first started calculating. So if you imagine, just the last 3 years, that's why this number's gotten way bigger than what we thought it was going to be when we decided to amalgamate. Because right when we amalgamated, with that grant, it was looking like the costs were about the same. But now that grant is stagnant, RCMP costs have gone up at least 30 grand a year since then.
Yeah, inflation.
So
Sure.
that,
Substantially these last 2 years.
well, yeah, so the problem's not, we get it why the RCMP costs went up. It's just, we need to maybe write some letters or something, saying, adjust your grant,
Do better.
do better.
Jonathan, did you have a comment? No. You think you're good? Okay, so I would just like to point out, number one, thank you very much for being here tonight. Number two, I'm gonna go with kudos for giving us a break in 2023 and not charging us anything. So the general public doesn't know that we were supposed to pay already that quantifying 600,000 that would have been combined. And because we amalgamated, that was one of those benefits that we got that other communities didn't. So we acknowledge very clearly, thank you for not dinging us with that very first year. Now, we did have some budgetary items that we had to come back and we screwed up. So we have to ding ourselves by doing a transfer of funds because we calculated the grant and found out that we didn't get it because we didn't pay. So you don't get the grant if you don't pay. So we had to actually absorb some money, but still a savings no matter how you slice the dice. So thank you for that. The other thing is now, Superintendent, I know you're friends with Don, but I don't know if you know how good a job Don does. So
I believe I do, but
number one, he's a really good golfer, even though I haven't got out with him. But we have in our presence tonight the President of Citizens on Patrol and his right-hand man. And he kisses rings, by the way. But they team up with the RCMP. They patrol our streets night after night after night. They have a great group of people and they swim about how good our RCMP are. So just wanted to throw a big congrats to every one of our personnel. And we look forward to having those individuals in our community. Brendan? I do.
The council approved the RCMP post-model 5-year municipal police services agreement effective April 1st, 2025 to 2029. Thank you both, gentlemen, for coming in tonight, and you two gentlemen as well, for everything that you guys do for us.
There you go. I have last chance for comments, concerns. I think we covered all the bases. Heather, great comments to start. Thank you for clarifying points. Cindy, excellent job and good. All in favor? That is carried. And we should probably sit and have more conversations with council moving forward now that we have a specific contract and we can look at community needs. And let's make sure that our citizens on the floor are part of that conversation. Okay,
Get them off the hot seat.
you're out. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us. Thank you to Citizen Patrol. I'll get that job then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Okay. I think we're doing good here, guys. Let's roll on to the 2025 water wastewater rates. Drive safe. Thank you again. Thank you. Mr. Davey, over to you.
Thanks, your worship. So as per council direction, the last meeting, administration has prepared the 2025 water and wastewater rates, working towards achieving full cost recovery in 2028. So administration has set the rates for 25, using the same rates as previously seen by council at the previous meeting. The other thing we want to note is that for 2025, a $2 paper billing fee has been added, as well as a $10 duplicate utility bill generation fee. Both Vin and Lisa are here if there's any further questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Renfrew.
I'm back.
Very well. All right, so we're on to wastewater rates. Brendan, you're up, and then Hazel, you're up.
Just a quick question about the full cost rates for 2025. What's the, I can't recall, why is the wastewater more expensive than the water? Because don't we calculate our, we calculate our wastewater based on how much water we use, correct?
Correct.
Okay, can you, so people are spending more on used water than they are on the water that they take out of their tap?
I can't stop you.
Thanks.
Yeah, please, Lisa.
The reality is it costs more to treat wastewater than water.
That's all I needed to hear. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
It's an easy one. Okay. Hazel.
Lisa, how many unreadable meters are there within the town?
So we actually do reads every month. We bill every second month, but we try to do reads every month to capture any meters that are starting to fail. When a meter fails, it stops reading. So it can be anywhere from 8 to 20 on my list at any time, but I guess every month would be probably less than 10. But that, I'm assuming you're referring to the fee with the unreadable meters. Occasionally we run into a location where we just can't get a response. So no phone, we hang door knockers, letters. So then we end up not tracking water for an extended period of time. So we added this fee to try and provide an incentive for letting Public Works in to replace the repair meter.
Do you have many frequent flyers?
I wouldn't say many. I would say it's less than 5 on a, carried out throughout time. But I mean, we've had a couple of cases where it's been 3 years and we cannot get access to repair meter.
Well, I really appreciate that you put this initiative into place. The time is tough. Yeah.
I was away a couple of years ago, my own fault. And they tried to get hold of me for 2 months before I was.
Councilor Gordon.
Yeah, a couple of things, just, it might be clerical unless I'm totally missing it, but the master fee schedules, page 75 in our agenda. It is the waste and wastewater fees effective January 1st, 2025. And we have bi-monthly fixed rates water residential. That's duplicated in 2 cells. And then the non-residential, and each item is duplicated identically. Could you explain as to why?
One is for water and one is for wastewater because there's 2 separate.
I'm tired.
fees. On the bill, I know, I was like, oh no, did I type them both?
No.
Yeah, just because they're both,
Oh, because they're Yeah.
That fixed charge for
Yeah.
water and wastewater is the same based on your meter size, but it does show up twice on the bill. So I did consult with Berna on this one and she felt that it should be listed
As is.
with it because they're two separate charges.
Thank you for explaining it. Sorry about that. Second question, with the proposed rates that are before us with this slight increase for 2025, for sake of our residents, what is the amount that we're looking to put into reserves on these dollar figures? Do you have that for this year?
I do not have that. I did calculate that previously, but I haven't recalculated with current data.
Okay,
Because I did run the numbers again with current data. Volumes are a little bit down this year, so I take that into account. So I don't have that exact number.
The people are using less water.
they are,
So
Yes.
my volumes are down.
Yes.
Yeah, great, okay.
Yes.
That's good.
which we love for conservation's sake.
Mhm.
So, it would have been nice to have that included here, because obviously this is a rate that we need to move forward for, where we want that full cost recovery. And the side benefit of that is making sure we have reserves. I'm not expecting you to do it
I
now.
have that done. I did, it was one of my previous.
You probably knew we were gonna ask that eventually, right? So.
Should I have that ready? So I do have the data.
Yeah.
It would just take.
It's just one of those points from a council perspective, as far as communication. I love the positive side. You know, we are increasing rates, but this is what the result will be. And the reason I want to highlight that is it's a hot topic in municipalities right now with that water main and that wonderful video you saw coming out of Montreal. And then what's going on in Calgary with their main feed line. And something for our municipality to consider is to really, let's be proactive and not reactive in this. So that's what I'd like to start communicating.
Excellent, thank you. Before Brendan gives me a motion, what are we currently paying per cubic meter?
$46.
So 46 cents, so we're going up 40 cents, 41. 41 cents per residential at 287.
For water,
Yeah.
yes.
And commercial?
Commercial and residential are the same. Wastewater will go up to 302 as proposed,
And presently we're
246.
as well. Well, then. Okay, all right. One more question from Councillor Holiday, and then we'll take a motion from Brendan.
Yeah, just going back to the master fee schedule, what's the rationale that, like on the non-residential, sometimes it matches up with the residential on like certain meter sizes? Like the odd ones might match and like, what's the rationale behind that?
It's all based on, so residential, when you see those large meters, like every single family home is a 5/8 meter.
Yeah.
So it's based on, the statistics on the meters like the mobile home park or the condos where they're servicing. So sometimes you'll see the residential is higher for the same size meter. It's based on that volume and the likelihood of that size meter being used. The reality is they're all in here, but many of these aren't even in our community.
Okay. All right.
All right, thank you. All right, Brendan.
Be more than happy to. Really appreciate all the work. We put you over the coals this past year. So Barry's like, what about this? I'm like, no, we're just passing this tonight. We'll talk next year. The council direct administration to incorporate the water and wastewater fee schedule as presented into the master fee schedule. And thank you again, administration, and you, Lisa, for all the work that you've given us the last year.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions, concerns? We'll, of course, message this out in the mayor's newsletter, as well as some social media postings. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Moving on to approval request for additional audit charges. I believe this one is gonna fall, it's right over and get her done. Sure.
I'll
Who
give
wants
you
to
the
fight
motion.
over it?
I got it. Council approved the use of the amalgamation grant to offset the additional audit expenses. And thank you once again for everyone on that audit. That was a process. So. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. we'll go to administration one by one. You can tell us all about how you went through the audit, how difficult it was, your personal learnings and how you want to grow through this experience. No, we're gonna stop there. Any comments, questions, concerns from council?
No.
No, all in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Carrying on. Get it? Carrying on. Is that carrying on? All right. Where are we at here, guys? Which one?
Service for you.
Service review? Davey? Community services? Mr. Davey?
Thank you, worship. So budget prep 2025, select services review. So the intent here going into budget guidelines discussion next month. Over the past 6 months or so, we've been trying to identify certain areas that perhaps we could find greater efficiencies on or requiring council direction for future years, in particular for us to start planning for budget next year. So we've got, I believe, around 10 or so different service areas. The report has sort of the background for each service area, a few different options, and then the assessment. So I suppose I would perhaps suggest that council, if you want to go through these one at a time, or how best you'd like to handle that.
Okay. Now, council, before we start down this road, I'm gonna make it very clear. We have wanted to have a little bit of debate on some of these items. We've wanted to go down some rabbit holes on these items. We want to set some direction for our admin staff in terms of budget. Let us not mince words. Let's not debate back and forth to God's end. Let's just be clear and concise with what we think, where we want to go. And if the majority says yes, then we go. And you move on to the next item. So I don't think we need to go crazy, but by all means, give us clear, concise what you think. And we all know some of these things are on the chopping block for future. The Blair and Derek can't last forever, for example. But in the meantime, what we have is what we have. So let's just go one item at a time. If we are clear and concise, this will not take long. So I'm gonna start with Cindy.
Can I just suggest we don't start with the flare? 'Cause to me, that seems like the controversial one that will get us down rabbit holes. So I'm just wondering if we could just maybe do
Go to the ones of interest.
first. Like start there and come back to the flare.
Yes.
Because I think that's where we got bogged down last time, is we started with a flare.
Yeah,
know
but
what?
we have to start somewhere, right?
All right, we're gonna start with number 2. There you go. Good call. Okay, events. So council, this is all on us. We don't need to hear from staff. The report's in front of you. We've debated, we've looked. So, who has some thoughts on our events? Go Hazel first.
New Year's Eve fireworks, the $10,000, I still find is a lot of money that's being spent on them. So how much do we get, how much do we receive in grants and sponsorship for the Canada Day fireworks?
Thank you to the chair.
Yes, please.
This year we applied for the full amount, received 2,500, so 25% of that.
Yeah, so very little,
Mhm.
yeah. So compared to that, what do you spend on the New Year's Eve fireworks? When I was involved, I don't think we spent more than $2,500, but your budget has also changed since then. Well,
Thank you for the question. Yes, you're correct. Several years ago, it was a lot less, and those costs have gone up substantially, but also the timing. So it's basically $1,000 a minute. And right at this point, we find that there is some disappointment if it's less than a 10-minute show. So that's why we've been aiming for that. But we've been very lucky with our supplier. He's also provided a fair amount of in-kind contributions so that the costs have been less than that. And I believe we were looking at 7,500, but this year it went back out to bids, and those were the costs that came back looking forward. So you're correct, they are going up significantly, and there's not that many options. We also try to complement all of this by supporting it through sponsorship, but we're finding that that dries up as well. For all of the contacts that we may have in businesses, there's only a handful that are able to provide it. And again, we have tried to blanket it and then we share that sponsorship amongst them, but some want to be attached to a specific event. And New Year's Eve, while everybody seems to love it and enjoy it and it grows all the time, it is becoming very difficult to keep it within budget. So we're either going to have to look at reducing some of the actual activities so that we can manage it within our staff levels and volunteers, or find new sources of revenue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brendan?
I'd say we just take out the New Year's Eve fireworks. Save 97 hours of staff time. That one seems to be the biggest one outside of, obviously the parade.
The whole event.
Yeah. We gotta make our decisions here. I mean, unless we wanna talk about how we're gonna, like, there's tons of other, when I was growing up, I lived in a small municipality. We just went to Ottawa. It's a 30-minute, 45-minute drive. We went to Ottawa. Okotoks is down the street for a lot of people. We need to start making some of these decisions. I'm just throwing it out there just to see what people want to talk about, but 97 hours of staff time. That's a couple weeks worth of our administrative colleagues here worth of time. Unless we want to look at a budget like we've been talking about and hiring new staff to manage some of these things, we need to start talking about taking some of these things off. So I made a suggestion at one of our last meetings that Canada Day fireworks. Another thing is you walk around the neighborhood and you take donations from the community members, and what you get is what you get for fireworks. So that's my 2 cents.
Heather?
Maybe from me? No. Thanks, Brendan. I think that actually we should go with the recommendation to offer the community organization. Consider opportunities to engage local business and service groups for light up, and then it would potentially take a year to get them up and running and stuff. I just don't think that our town staff should be, volunteers should be stepping up to the board more and more for these events. It's just, it's a lot of money that we're putting out to host events that there's a lot of people that come from Calgary, et cetera, and there's opportunities for businesses to make some money doing these things. So not necessarily maybe volunteers, but businesses. Yeah, I agree. And the other suggestions regarding Project Green Day and volunteer appreciation and the seniors tea, those things should be put into place for administration's recommendations. I don't necessarily disagree with just get rid of the fireworks for New Year's Eve. That's an easy one. But I think that we have to look at the bigger picture as well, start turning some of this over.
Thank you. That's a great recommendation. Cindy?
Yeah, I love Parade Day. For me, that's the one I like. I think it should be our main thing. And then I like Canada Day because I'm patriotic and I think we should do something to our Canada Day, right? The fireworks, but just fireworks. Like, it doesn't have to turn into this big thing. And I like it. You can ask people for sponsorship for the main thing. And then maybe if they say no, they say, well, maybe you'll consider a small donation towards our fireworks on Canada Day as an option if they don't want to do something. They're just 2 in a row, done. To me, I think that's all we should be doing. We have our one big thing, because I can't imagine trying to hit sponsors up for New Year's and for the parade and light up, and light up should be done by the chambers. Our problem is that we've not had a properly functioning chamber that has taken on some of these things that they should, but we're kind of enabling that, right? By offering all of these things. We're taking over for them, and I think it needs to stop. And yeah, the rest, the Green Day, volunteering, appreciation leaders. I think we just need to focus on, you know, the parade day and fireworks. That's what I was voting.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts? So,
I'm at the same one.
so we're here in Parade Day and Light Up.
No,
Sorry, Parade Day and Canada Day.
Yeah.
So we're just making that.
and only those 2 items.
And then, as Heather mentioned, approach nonprofits and so on, community groups, and ask them if they're interested in taking some of this up.
Yeah, I think the New Year's, because we have shown it could be successful, but it could be if somebody wanted to rent the flyer and run their own thing. Some of these Diamond Valley community groups, youth foundations that we've already got people interested. So I don't know how the budget works if this coming New Year's is already budgeted on this last budget, so that's still going to be a no. I think we need to have some clarification because we don't have any time to give it away for this New Year's, so I would like some administration.
Yeah, worship, I can maybe kind of understand, summarize this. So for 2025, you have the parade next year. As New Year's is already funded for this year, we manage that. So I'm hearing those two. And then what I'm hearing is we'd look at a communication campaign to try to bring on nonprofits, community groups to take on some of these other things for 25, and we'd report back to council. It's one of that remain cognizant of is, we'll put the invite out there, but I want to use town staff to go knocking on doors, it'll be that kind of mass communication. And if that doesn't work out, we'll report back next year how it looks. But the two I'm hearing is parade for 2025. And of course, New Year's is going for this year. And then next year, Canada Day fireworks.
Parade again. Yeah.
Okay.
And Valley Day portion of it as well, not just the parade, like the entire thing.
The children's festival.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Discovery days.
Yeah, and I think part of the messaging, CEO Davies too, is for volunteer appreciation, council and the mayor are still gonna show up to these events. It's not like we're just gonna hand this off to somebody, you're on your own, go do it. More than happy. Barry and I have been to the seniors tea, been to volunteer appreciation. I've been to the majority of these events. Council would still very much like to be involved, but I think the administrative side of it needs to take a step back and say, hey, you guys need to do more of this on your own. Whereas council will gladly show up and support you in any of these endeavors.
I think that's clear, your worship.
Do you want a motion to that effect?
Yes, please.
Motion is that council directs administration to include Diamond Valley Parade Festival and Canada Day fireworks in the 2025 budget. And to pursue third-party organizations to take over the Diamond Valley New Year's Eve. So that would be January 1st, 2026, or 2026. And Project Green Day, Volunteer Appreciation, Seniors Tea, and Light Up Diamond Valley to be transferred to third parties as well. As possible.
Perfect. That'll keep it clear. Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, number 2 is done.
Well, I could.
Number 3, Finance Department Service Level Adjustment, Implementation of Printed Utility Fee. We don't need to talk about that, that's good. Municipal Updates Newsletter Advertising. That's a newsletter, that's pretty straightforward, guys. 11 grand, we're worth that. Probably spend more, do more. But Hazel, go ahead.
So will administration be looking at charging a fee for any of the one-offs? Like the taxation notices, the assessment notices, anything paper? So if you as a resident want to receive a paper copy of your dog license notice, dog license renewal notice, you'll be charged a $2 fee. Right now, you're looking at utility.
Your worship, go ahead, Lisa.
We are not allowed to charge a fee for assessment or tax notices, so those will not be. We are looking to charge a fee for people that are requesting one also, and that was one of the things that you saw in the utility master fee, that $10. So we got requests from people asking us to reprint things that we have already sent them. So with eGov, you can see your animal license, your business license, your tax, utility, and have the ability to download and print those yourself. So we will be moving to paperless and charging fees for people that are asking for one-offs in terms of the $2 fee for a tax solicitor says, and notice that not happen.
So in January, you'll be sending out, it'll be communicated out to anybody for their dog license renewal, right? Like in the past, you sent out letters, and now this year you're not sending out letters. You have to be on the
Yes, that one I'm gonna pass off on. Not sure if it's a dog.
Excuse me, I'm going to ask tag team this between municipal enforcement that receives the revenue from it, but for my team administratively, and it would be something that would be an email first, and my understanding is, yes, there would be a fee if somebody required a printed copy. That would be part of it as well.
So if you're not signed up on eGov, then you will pay the $2, is that correct?
That's correct, your worship. So where we're trying to go here is, if you recall the last utility bill, we had a message on there that said, we're going digital.
Yeah.
So that's how we're starting the communication. So pending the feedback here, we'll start that communication campaign to, social media, the website, email, that sort of thing. So the idea here is, obviously, we're not going to capture 100% of folks in year one. Some folks may still want printed bills, no different than, your phone bill, right? But the whole intent here is to get us off of printing. It's not the cost of the printing that's expensive, it's the staff time, right? So even tying 3 and 4 together with, the newsletter, I mean, you're talking about thousands of inserts and staff printing, right? So just by doing that away, allows us to reallocate time.
That's great. Heather?
Yeah, I personally am okay with eliminating this stuff for 8,456. I wonder about eliminating the printed mayor's message and utility inserts 6 times a year. We do have a lot of people that just don't use computers and stuff like that. So I don't necessarily agree with that. We have to find some way to get messaging out to some seniors and some people that, my one son doesn't have any social media stuff, so. And he's not a senior.
So what do you think? Keep that message in place.
Yeah, so I fully support getting rid of the Vista in the Western Leo. I don't support eliminating the mayor's message, but that's me, so.
So your worship, just to jump up, because the mayor's message goes out with the utility bills, it'll now be $2 a bill. It's either or.
Yeah, either or.
It's either you have no billing or you carry on as we currently are. So what we're saying with item 3 is we would charge $2 to come in and get a printed bill, but if we digitize, mayor's message would also be digitized.
Yeah.
So you will use the mail.
So if you still want us to mail out mayor's message, that reduces the. Exactly, because they go up together, right?
Yeah, it's a good point. I didn't
Right.
made that.
So
Yeah.
you send one out, there's no sense charging folks $2 for a printed bill if you're still sending a message, right? Doesn't save any money.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what do we do about that? Like, what do we do about it?
And that's,
Those people that just don't.
that's sort of, again, back to that customer service model, your worship. So if anyone has natural gas or a phone bill, probably pay for a printed copy.
I don't pay on my gas. I do
Until-
pay my, I do pay.
Yeah. So the question here is, to maintain that personalized service level, carry on, you just keep paying that, or you digitize and there's a bit of cost savings associated with that.
Yeah, that's quite a cost, savings $11,500 is really good, and I just wonder about that, like, so. I guess we give a hard copy to those that phone in and charge them $2.
Yeah, but you will, like, so if I have on eGov that I don't want us to receive anything by, I don't want to receive it by email, then automatically will I not get a print?
Printed copy.
Yeah, printed copy.
For sure.
So the idea now, because again, it's August, so between now and December, we're going digitize that communication, so strike to, okay, January, that first utility bill is now digital. Unless you want to come in and pay $2.
So what's gonna happen to these folks that are not gonna sign up? And they're gonna be missing their water bill?
Still mail out, but they'll have the $2 fee.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine with
Yeah,
that.
they'll still get the bill.
Okay, as
Right.
long as they're getting the bill.
I'm gonna get the bill every time, because I'm lazy with computers, not because I don't want to do it, it's because I'm lazy. So I'm gonna get the bill, I'm gonna pay the $2, and then after $12, I'm going, oh man, I better do this. And then I'm gonna do it, and then I'm not gonna get paid for any more, it'll be digital.
At one time I was tasked with calling people on the list that were not receiving their utility bill by email. And
Versus.
yes, and there was a quarter of them that said, yes, I do want it. And the other 2/3, the third said they wanted it, the other 2/3 said they didn't want it. And the majority of the people that did want to receive their pay for utility bill were young people, because they stapled it or tacked it to the fridge.
Your worship, I should say, this is not January 1st it's shut off, right? This might take 3 or 4 years to gain all those households to go, right? So like you mentioned, maybe some folks like the $12 annual fee for, put it on their refrigerator.
Yep. Totally. Okay, well, let's go ahead with that. I think that's all good.
Yeah.
I do agree with Heather, though, if we're gonna go that route. Then the mayor's message is gonna follow suit. It's either gonna be in the envelope or it's gonna be digitized, so that's fine. So the savings will be a long-term gain. It'll take a while to get there. So that's gonna remain.
And it'll be on the website.
Yep, it'll be on the website.
Facebook
So
page.
3 and 4 remain as is. Is that correct, council?
I suggest.
As suggested,
Digital.
right? Go digital. Right? So let's make a motion out of that.
Okay. I just ask a question about,
Yeah, oh yeah, go ahead.
Just a question about,
Sure we get it all figured out.
renters, or people that own more than one property. Are you able to, I haven't been on our website recently, are you able to sign up for more than one household under one account?
Defer that over, Lisa.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
The only limitation is if you have it under different names, like if you have a company name and a personal name, then you would have to log in under 2 separate logins. But it's all accessible, and administration is happy to help people with setting up their accounts. But if you have multiple properties, you can see them all, especially if they're in the same name.
Yeah.
And in regards to tenants, the ability still is there to email utility bills with the owner's permission to the tenant and the owner. And all notices can be sent to more than one email.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah.
Okay. So do you want a motion for the digital? Go ahead.
Sure, your worship, yeah, just support.
Direct administration to go digital with items 3 and 4 as presented.
Okay, comments, Cindy?
Items 3 and 4.
Well, it's the finance department service level adjustment and the level of advertising. We did those together.
Yeah, so 3 and 4 are together in their concept, digital.
Yeah.
Comment, yeah.
I'm just wondering, I've actually never noticed the mayor's message on the website. Is it put in as a news flash or how is it? Because I do think, like, for me, if I have to go on sign on to eGov to look at it, I'm just not gonna read it, but I might
No.
go looking on the website for something.
Thanks, your worship, Paul.
Sure, thank you. Yes, it's typically done that way. It's either news flash and it's sent out directly that way to anybody who's signed up. But it had been also posted. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to find, so we'll make sure that it's in a fairly obvious position on the website.
It should be right up front, yeah.
Yeah.
Get that motion? I think
A motion to,
Well, I still have a motion.
just so it doesn't get forgotten.
I still have a
I'll do
motion.
motion after, yeah.
Motion for 3 and 4 to go digital, all in favor? Yeah. Good. Okay. Cindy?
Yeah, just a motion to direct administration to make the mayor's message more prominent on the Downers Valley website.
All in favor?
Yep.
Good, thank you. Okay, all right, we're at number 5, FCSS social support programs. So FCS receives approximately 121 annually for 3 years, town contributed 25% program, so on and so forth. And you have it in the report, it's right up here. I noticed volunteer appreciation seniors T is under this, status, and then it says refer to events. So is that to say then that the events were actually covered for FCSS money and the costs associated,
Mhm.
right? Which was always the case. So, okay, what do we want to do here, guys? Gals? Yes, ma'am.
Just in response to talking about the income tax program, the federal government is rolling out a bunch of changes to assist people with low income. They are expecting to get about 2 million Canadians onto a new program where their income taxes get automatically filed. So I think that's going to take care of a lot. Maybe some people that would normally use a service, I'm not sure. But I think there's changes coming that will make this kind of program null and void in future years. So I'm okay getting rid of it. I'm just not sure what your recommendations are on the babysitting program. Like I'm fine getting rid of your recommendation to limit and phase out the income tax, but what was your recommendation on the babysitting?
If I may, through the chair,
Yes,
the
please.
babysitting program is really not a very expensive program. It becomes more based on principle. So what happens with the subsidy is that it subsidizes students from Diamond Valley. They're provided some extra skills that are not offered through the school, is my understanding, or it's not afforded through any online services through the school, but certainly it's an option for parents. And this is a hands-on course whereby they become certified, and it's often their first job. So it's seen as support for youth in our community to be able to become more resilient and learn new skills. And as I say, the amount really isn't that much. It's done by an outside contractor. The town doesn't have to do any of the organization. It just helps to promote it. The principal portion would be that anybody has access to it. That would be a resident, doesn't even have to be a student at the school, but a resident in Diamond Valley, and they would all get that subsidized cost. So there is no criteria set for any income levels by which they would be eligible to receive that subsidized amount.
Who's our FCSS coordinator right now here on council? Who sits on that one? Hazel? Do you have anything to add on this one? No? Well, then we better not bring that one up.
Sorry.
Just follow up.
Oh, good. Yeah, go ahead, Susie.
So why, we're not looking at cutting it, you're just saying that we do offer it.
The recommendation isn't clear, and I apologize for that. It would be that it can be maintained, but I wanted the opportunity to be able to explain how the subsidy works. It is considered one of our internal programs because we oversee, we hire the contractor, and we provide some support for the program. But realistically, it's not requiring a lot of staff time. What it would save is just the direct cost of about $1,500 annually.
I'm just wondering, is this held at like the library or something, that it would be more like we should be talking to the library board saying you should run this and here's the money for it? Or,
We have had conversations with the school. They were unwilling to pick it up and run with it. We could certainly find other partners that may be willing to lead that and oversee it.
to me, it seems like the perfect thing you offer at the library, because that's where kids go and you can advertise much better. I think there's other people that are better equipped to get the word out than we as a town are. And to me, the schools would absolutely be the best bet,
Yeah.
but if they're not willing to talk to you, then I think their libraries are second best.
Jonathan, and then this one, we could probably take to account.
Yeah, I'd love to take to Cal. If I can ask administration to look at an alternative. I believe Nanton several years ago, instead of the town overseeing the FCSS grant, they actually went to a community organization, and it's now called the Nanton Quality of Life Foundation. And I would I don't know what the options are for us to pursue that, but I wonder if we couldn't have some information on how we could do that locally here as well.
Yeah, we're not gonna solve this one tonight. So I think we're just gonna move this one to the next Cal. And we'll have and I think we can get some background information built up before then. When's our next Calburn?
Tenth,
Number 10, yep.
10th?
September 10th, yeah.
Yeah, I think we should, that'll give us some time to do some emailing back and forth with thoughts.
I think we could just take that. Is that
Oh.
clear?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
April first.
So,
March.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
and then phase it out in 2026. So I'm happy to make the motion for that. To limit the intake period for the low income tax program and phase it out for 2026.
Okay, excellent. All in favor? Comment from Hazel.
Just asking for clarification, because you have a staff amount here, 5,000, or estimated staff time, $5,000. Did we have a team member assigned to assisting residents in completing and filing their income tax?
Yes. Oh, yeah, we solicit help from certified volunteers. They receive training. This year we had 3. We've held 2 tax clinics and we are intaking any overdue claims, and sometimes depending on the circumstances, somebody may have been passed away, what have you. But if they meet that threshold of income, then we've been assisting, and that's handled by the coordinator during the off season. And also the coordinator assists with the initial intake, which is this assuring that all of the documentation is correct prior to passing it on to volunteers.
Excellent, thank you. All right, moving on to our favorite transit, Sheep River Shuttle.
Solid.
I gotta tell.
I'll make a motion right now. No conversation.
Yeah, let's put a motion up and then we can start a debate.
We're on transit. Yeah, look at, the remaining grant responsibilities that we have. But I would say move to dissolve this. I don't know, operation. Yeah, obviously it says, it does say contingent on the grant for sure. It's good to see numbers are up a little bit from last year, but yeah, leave it at that. Say $50,000 a year is pretty sweet.
Plus the capital return.
Provide the van, just provide a service.
Well, we have a taxi in town.
Yeah, I mean, you can't take people from here.
Right, but if there was a greater demand for it, then maybe you could participate by a van.
This will start that debate
That's right.
within the community of, hey, I have business ideas, those are coming up.
We've had
That's
somebody,
something to do.
we had it on it when I first got here, that didn't even last 12 months.
Nope, I love it. Okay, any further debate on the motion is to sell with pending the grant requirements. Everybody good with that?
There are no outstanding grant obligations.
Are we past the five?
Still another year.
Unless Bear sentence there.
Yeah, your worship, we did,
Adam?
we just want to confirm they're not there, so we put the inquiry out, we just still need the 100%.
Yeah, maybe.
I like the way the motion reads, just firm it up, make sure, come back, and then we can move ahead. Okay, motion on the floor, all in favor? Opposed? Nope, none, okay, thank you. Yes, please, go ahead.
Do we have a taxi service or a ride, Uber, like a ride sharing option in town?
There's a private guy. Yeah, Dave English, yes.
Because I couldn't see it on the business director.
Go ahead, Minette.
Yeah, thank you. At this point in time, as we explore this, we are speaking to the owner of that particular service, that it's quite limited in terms of availability. So it's not what we would consider a consistent or reliable service, not to comment on the type of service that's offered. But for this, in terms of replacement, what council will likely be asked at some point in budget is whether or not it wishes to continue some form of subsidized service for seniors. And that is something that was provided in the past. And
I think that's a great.
it
Great
cost
point
in
that we
around.
need to keep fresh as the council that we do need to address our seniors' needs. And I think that's where the main thrust of our conversation as we move forward will have to be. And what are the options? Can we assist maybe, but not provide the whole capability at a loss? So, okay, excellent. Motion's carried. Recreational fee assistance program is number 7 and community support grant is number 8. So we are on number 7. It's a quick bullet point here. Heather, go ahead, sorry.
I'm fine to put motion forward to direct administration to negotiate an agreement with Okotoks supporting a recreation fee assistance subsidy. And that administration bring that forward to council for consideration during budget deliberations.
Thank you. Everybody good? Any comments, concerns? No. Straightforward, easy, all in favor? Thank you, Heather. Number 8, community support grant facility program and project summary. Go ahead.
The only thing on this list that I actually like have any thoughts on are citizens on patrol, and not because they were just sitting here. But to me, they're kind of like stars that you just, you know, you almost just say here's $1,000 a year kind of thing out of municipal enforcement budget. But everything else, it's like skating club, high school, like Sheep River Health Trust, like there's nothing here that I really regret in a big enough way that it's worth the 2 hours of staff time, that $500 grant is my opinion. So I don't know how anyone else feels about citizens on patrol, and maybe if municipal enforcement might have, if they feel that is something that we could set up like a STARS, like an ongoing. Cause I think people that stay up in the middle of the night to drive around their cars using their own gas, that's incredible, phenomenal. But everyone else, I think they have other, I don't think it's our place anymore. Like, let people, taxpayers donate to private things on their own. If you want your kids skating, you pay for the skating rink.
Thank you. Brendan.
Second, what Councilor Holiday just said, the other one here that does stick out for me because of the amount of people it brings in has the last 2 years has been the car show. We had over 300 cars this year, which was a huge jump from last year, and I can only imagine the amount of business that brought for our local businesses. Yeah, they certainly can. But that's something that, like, for $500 to bring in probably 600 or 700 people, if not more than that. And maybe thousands, because I just went to the Okotoks one and they had over 500 cars and there was a lot of people there.
If you could get into that for the foothill skating club, bringing people into the grandparents and watch. I think once you start making exceptions, and that's why even citizens on patrol would be sketchy to, don't want to, you just gotta keep the grant and forward.
Sure.
Start making too many
Okay.
exceptions.
Okay.
Sorry, yes, I was just reading fine print. Go ahead, Renee.
I would mention that there are some where, you know, while we all feel subjectively that they're deserving, if it's eliminated, there are the opportunities such as the car show to become a sponsor. So we look at it as an advertising expense, and maybe at budget, we bring that forward and say these would be the types of advertisements that we could do, so that there's value also as being seen as a partner, as opposed to going through the entire administrative process of having to apply for a grant. The reason that this started many, many years ago in Turner Valley was to offset some of the costs of rentals for a lot of these organizations that were nonprofit. And so if they were renting the Flare and Derrick for the Christmas market, they didn't start in the hole. So, and yet we also did not want to waive the fees because then we wouldn't capture that revenue. So if there's an opportunity to sponsor instead through advertising, call it that, there's that opportunity, and that would be left to administration.
Brent.
Okay, love that money. So my only question following that, because I do support kind of getting rid of this, when someone called and said, hey, I used to fill out this application and we were awarded grant money, would the conversation then be with administration to say, we'll sponsor you, and this is, or how would that go with these people that used to get money beforehand?
I would suggest that they would have to have an organized sponsorship program, and we would consider it that level if it aligns with what we feel are our community values and our objectives. And so it would have to be an outlined marketing plan, which we require anyway. And then it would have to fit within that if it meets those particular needs or objectives.
It's just tied to your worship. So, you know, back from the beginning of the meeting, we talked about sponsorship, right, with the new policy. And so if this was, the whole community support grant program was just eliminated, obviously we communicate out to all the impacted folks too, right?
That's also important.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, I'm totally for eliminating this. However, I just have another question for administration. If council so desired, if somebody came and had a fabulous idea that's going to, you know, help the community, I don't believe that there's any reason, like, will we have, or can we have set up some kind of, I don't know, reserve or something that we could use for
So,
special things that may come up? Because like if you just eliminate this and then council goes, oh,
if I may, your worship,
we eliminate it, that's that.
so if you had previous location I worked at, there was a council contingency fund, but then you have the reverse problem come.
Yeah.
You figure out, well, how do you determine how much they should get?
Yeah.
So then you go around in the circle and you come up with a support grant program. So that would be if council wanted that at budget time, you would just be in order to put a motion on it with a number, so you'd have that line item. That would be one way around it.
Yeah, okay, I did, it just was a thought, you know, like if something really came forward that we really wanted to do, then how would we go about that?
Yeah,
But
so
I totally agree, like to just eliminate it.
if I could ask, Ms. LeBlanc, CIO. So presently we have community support grant remaining 18,000, is that correct? 450. Right, we designated 25. If we designated just 5,000, that's a 20,000 off the table, and then we have a few of these select ones that come through. We still have an ability, but it's a far smaller amount, and we can be very fine with what we support. And then they can actually have, but we've reduced staff, so right now, say we're doing 56 hours. So we cut it down to a 20-hour window. We still have a small ability.
I get rid of it very, you know, I'd like to bring something else up, you know, like the Foothills Lions Club also helps out some, a lot of these organizations. There's different outlets for people to get some grant funding through the Foothills Lions Club or through the Millerville Horticultural Club offers different grants. There are different outlets for people to go through. And the one thing that, you know, like the kids for the Oilsfield High School stuff, they have the ability and should be doing their fundraising. I have a tough time, periods, doing the school stuff because, you know, we're.
I think the point is clear, Heather. I think you made your point. I think
Yeah.
council's made their point. I think we'll vote on this one. Who made the motion? Brendan? You made it. Ready to start? So I said make a motion, we'll have a debate. Sure. Right, that was the motion.
But I'd also like to see a sponsorship thing come out of this, if that's being in the motion.
Secondary motion.
I look at the grimace on his face.
Yeah,
He said,
I don't want to add staff time.
Just looking for some clarity here, your worship. So for 2025, we're talking about cutting community support grants. So for the remainder of the year, you'll continue to see this. Between now and January, we communicated out to everyone affected, no more support grant. It's 25, it's gone.
Yeah.
With sponsorship, you want some flexibility in there for, as part of our new program, that we can assess and perhaps sponsor. And that would come back as part of sort of our new sponsorship plan, or sorry, Mike, you mentioned.
Portion of the marketing
Yeah.
plan from under the economic development budget.
Love that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's
I
really.
like that.
it would basically, okay, he's
So it would be like, the Ben Steiger golf tournament, that's all under that, economic development.
If I may, golf tournaments are a little bit more challenging.
Even though there's advertising.
That's the idea.
But to a very limited audience and those that have already paid. This would be likely public events And does it align with the vision or what we're trying to promote as a town? Is there a way to message that?
So for example, something like the car show, if the town sponsors that, that's our branding everywhere. That's pretty wide.
The teacher. Yeah. Cindy's got a questioning look on her.
I was just worried that we're still taking the same amount of staff time to do the same thing under a different thing, and I don't really like that. I think that we help Wood Hills Lions Club with the campground, and then they give out a lot to community organizations. To me, the only thing I would even question is Citizens on Patrol out of, a line item, just like STARS out of ME budget, $1,000 a year, and the Chamber of Commerce. It seems kind of crazy that we don't support them, and then we make fun of them that they're not active enough in taking over things. So to me, that is good, supporting a well-run chamber or having faith in them. That is better for economic development than trying to help all these little one-off community groups, because I think the philosophy I have is that citizens should have the right to decide who they want to donate money to when it comes to some of these charitable causes. And we're heavy-handed as making them pay taxes, that then we get to decide all these little things like that. Like we offer water, sewer, fire, roads. That should be our thing. But because we always need to do something for economic development, I think a token there, and then Citizens on Patrol, I think that's just municipal enforcement. If they're running well and Emmy thinks that should be a line item year after year, then $1,000 I'm good. So that'd be the motion I would like to make, is just those two things, $1,000 line items for the chamber and citizens and.
Hold that thought. So we're gonna stick with this. We're gonna motion on this one to remove as per Brendan's motion. We'll vote on that one. And then, I think you make really good points. Let's stick to the credentials. But I think also if ME has the money and they like it, they can bring it and say, yeah, Citizens on Patrol, we want to have some money in there. So I don't think you need to make a motion on that. But let's just vote on this one and then we'll just have a chat on that one. So motion by Brendan to remove the community support grant in its entirety. Would that be correct? All in favor? And that is carried. Cindy, clarify your point around the motion.
I would just direct that economic development and municipal enforcement consider a $1,000 line item each for Citizens on Patrol and the Chamber of Commerce as an outstanding budget, in the upcoming budget as an item. And then let them hash it out.
Chamber would do that. Yeah, I actually support this, but I actually would like to see a little bit more money go to the chamber. So that we are supporting them, so they maybe will step up and start running some of these events and being involved.
You ready?
Yeah, I think that's a good amendment. Instead of specifying $1,000, let admin determine
Yeah,
what
I
would be
would
the
take
best.
$1,000 and
That'd be my
let
amendment.
admin come up with an appropriate amount.
Okay.
And if I can speak to that just very briefly, I know TJ was up in there. The reason I really support the Citizens on Patrol, a couple weeks ago, I had a chat with Mike King in regards to some of the fallacy on Facebook about the crime and how it comes in with low income. And the work that the Citizens on Patrol does in monitoring vehicles that come into our community overnight, and they work with the RCMP, it's vehicles coming from out of town. And so, but that monitoring basis, I think is super critical that for that basis alone, I would want to fund them annually. It's super important for our community.
TJ, you want to wrap us up?
Well, I would just, if I maybe so bold to recommend, I'm not sure if this even requires a motion, because as we approach budget time, we're gonna have the opportunity to think, because there may be, off the top of my head, I think what Foothills Search and Rescue, which nobody really funds right now, but has become a strong partner of both the fire department and public safety in the community. So I think rather than, if I could suggest maybe withholding a motion, allow us, we've heard you, I've heard you, certainly from my department's perspective. We're gonna be coming back in a month or so with budget time. I absolutely will be bringing a proposal for us to enhance either find the money within our current budget or suggest a budget enhancement, which at that time you'll have an opportunity, I think, we could debate whether it's 500, 1,000 and stuff like that. So I just to save a motion right now, which binds us, I think from my perspective, from what you suggested for us, like, and I might suggest for Telstra Rescue as a code person to share with COP and stuff like that. So I think if you give me that latitude, I think we can come back with you at budget time with that latitude. So just a comment anyways, but.
Would you confirm, Mr. Dave?
Yeah, that's in line with council's intent, your worship. I like that flexibility too.
Okay.
Withdraw my motion then.
Excellent. Check the box, that one's done. Moving on, we have number 9, Diamond Valley Municipal Campground. No. Number 2. I say we put in services and make money.
Yeah.
Put in services and go with number 2.
Go ahead, Councilor Gordon.
Yeah, working with the Lions and seeing the great job they do in Black Diamond, I think it'd be really critical for us to explore leasing to the nonprofit group in a very similar manner. Obviously, we'd have to put it out for tender, but I would not mind us putting in that investment with services as well. There's a growing demand in our region for campgrounds and campsites here. So that would be, I'll put that motion on the table that we explore leasing to that non-private group or a private contractor with services in the campground. So that will be an investment in that infrastructure.
Yeah, I think first we gotta go with that, and then I think we should talk about the capital project.
I'll separate the motion there. Yeah, my first motion is to explore the leasing to the nonprofit private group.
Yep, perfect. Okay, anyone comment on that?
Yeah, can I just get clarity on private contractor?
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that. What is that? Could that be like iBuy
Mr. LeBlanc has experience
it?
in this one, yeah, you could be well, you can't.
I don't necessarily like that.
Thank you for the question.
Minute,
I
yeah.
was just offering an option. I'm not really making a recommendation. My first choice would be, first right of refusal would be the Lions Club. They already obviously operate another one very well, and I think they're familiar with it. It would be an easy handover, and we'd be able to negotiate something that was reasonable. The second one was failing that, if for any reason they feel that they don't have capacity to do so, then it would be to go forward, and it would be probably a minimum of 5, probably 10-year lease with a private operator. That is how a lot of Kananaskis is being operated at the moment. So it would remove it from the town, and there would be revenue received as a result of that lease cost.
Okay, so there's your answer to that. Okay. We still have a motion on the floor, correct? Okay, any follow-up to that, Brendan? You're looking a little bit.
Yeah, it just sounds like we're leaving money on the table here. Even if I'm just not sure. So we're gonna make 15,000 in revenue, but we save 10,000 in staff time. And how much did we make last year at the campground? Was it last year? I thought we made quite a bit last year on the campground.
Your worship,
We're gonna get an answer next on the finger click.
I thought we did pretty good last year at the campground. We're talking about this one over here, right? Yeah, okay.
So just to give you a perspective, in the past, I'll put on a Lions Club hat for a second. In the past, say 8 years ago, we ran full-time staff through the campground. We have live-in hosts, we call them. And they
got away with this here.
And they get paid monthly salary.
Okay.
And they're in charge of the cleaning, the bathrooms. Go country. Cleaning the bathrooms, mowing the grass, selling the wood, making sure all the bookings, everything that goes with it, right? And it ran fairly well. It all depends on who you have as a host and do they last the summer.
But we don't have a host here.
No, we don't.
And we
And
just
that's the
implemented a new
difference.
booking website,
Yeah.
and I believe our bookings were up substantially last year.
Last year, we had all the pipeliners open in.
Yeah.
So on a rotating basis, we were full. When you look at there in the middle of the week, there's
Maybe
room.
1 or 2.
Whereas there's no room in Black Diamond. Black Diamond is solid
It's packed,
package.
but it's also fully serviced.
Exactly. And if
Yeah.
we
This
put in
one's only
services, this thing will fill up. And I think that comes into the capital budget chalk. So you don't wanna put it to a contractor just to go off, or we don't wanna put it to a contractor on a 5-year term and then say, oh, by the way, in year 2, Craig's coming in and rip the road up. So I think, when we put in those services, it will fill up just like Black Diamond and the town will reap the reward. 100%. It's a matter of when are we gonna do that? So there's a few cogs we need to put in place for sure. So for right now, do we have a number yet on what we actually made last year? It'll be below 10 would be my guess at best. When we ran it, we were lucky if we thought we made 10 after paying. The only bonus, of course, is Lions puts money back into it. So I'm straight.
It's a bit of an anomaly because I would say that's correct, around 8. However, we have been charged amortization costs and it's being applied to the Diamond Valley Municipal Campground as a result of the Foothills Lions Club portion of it as well. And that amounts to a fair amount. I don't know.
What's this?
So it means that, well, perhaps if Ben's on the line, he can explain it. But essentially, there's amortization costs for both. And one of them alone, which has not been assigned in the past, it's a Town of Diamond Valley asset, is the Foothills Lions Club. And it's amortization of around $36,000. So it significantly affects the bottom line. And I'm not sure accounting wise how that works, but I think you can take a look at on average 10,000. We've done exceptionally well over the last year and this year, because yes, the pipeliners, but also we have a new software program and we're able to get payment ahead of time. And it's really eliminated the costs of labor. So we haven't required as many staff to be able to oversee it, and we get paid up front. So we're not losing, there's less leakage, if you will.
Okay. All right. Cindy.
Do we have a rough estimate of the capital cost for putting water sewer in there? Like, are we talking millions or are we talking a couple $100,000?
Like 60,000 in our capital.
There's no like even ballpark under 200, over $500,000. Kind of stuff.
Great.
So through the chair, that's an interesting question, and no, we don't actually have a high level number for that particular space. Back in 2015, 2016, Turner Valley had put together a capital project where we would move the campground sort of where Far Brewery is. So taken over, and that was around 1.6, and that was full service lots with showers, the whole works. Yeah, I wouldn't have an idea. It would need a fair amount of money, upgrade the current servicing, and then to run sewer, water, power. A lot of the RVs are actually much higher amperage than the service we provide.
A bigger site.
And the sites are jammed, so when we took it over in 2016, in 2017, I actually reduced the spacing of the campsites so that we could accommodate newer RVs that are longer with the slide outs. And so we actually went from about 25 sites down to 19 sites. And it would require a fair amount of work, to be quite honest.
Okay. All right, where are we at with this one? Do you know where we're at with this one? Do we have a motion on the
The
table?
motion is it's capital, it's put in the leasing to the
Okay. Brett, comment?
I'd rather push this over to the MVP, and figure out what we're gonna be looking at. But those are my, like, I'm fine to vote on this. I'm not gonna vote in favor of it, but, that's where I would stand.
Okay. All right, anyone else got some thoughts? I'm gonna vote Brendan on this one.
Cindy?
Yeah, it's a good comment on the MDP that we don't want to make a decision. The only one I'd want least helping would be Foothills Lions Club. I don't really want any private contractor or a permanent decision, because we might want to do something with that area that's not a campground. Because there's other places that might be better for a campground. And to invest money in there might be a silly thing. If we need, say, more parking in the downtown because we've got business expansion or whatever. So I would rather just see it maintain operations as is, or a potential partnership with the Lions Club and leave it at that. Be my preference.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the assessment here. I'll close here. Based on what has been reported for us, just to remind council, the in-kind staff's costs, which are with accumulated overtime, exceed the benefit of operating a municipal campground. That's 2025. That's the reality. That's current. So this is why I'm in favor. But I can definitely amend the motion and offer, have administration offer the lease directly to the Lions Campground for 2025. Or to the Lions Club for 2025. Because we're talking about controlling costs for 2025. And with the assessment that staff has provided for us, currently, the costs are exceeding the revenue and the benefit of operating it. So why don't we just for 2025 offer it to the Lions? If they say yes, great. If they say no, at budget time, we just revert to what we're doing this year.
That would be a great suggestion. It gives us a little breathing room.
Yeah.
Because I think it is, really important that if we're gonna make money off of it, long term, if we're gonna do a capital project, we need to get that for our taxpayers. In the meantime, if the Lions, and I don't know if they will or not, but if they were to take it on, at least the money's going back into the community.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it gives us some breathing room and it gets us some answers, and then we can address that capital and budget. So great, that's a great amendment to the motion. Any further comments?
So just for 2025,
Just,
and then we'll have the discussion again, because it says 2025 onward.
no, just for
Okay,
2025.
I just wanted to clarify. Thank you, John.
That's great.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, back to the flare. I was gonna move on. I was gonna say next on the agenda. Oh, that's silly. That's a little holiday. She just wanted to dig in there. Just get in there. Okay, let's look at this one, guys. Brendan just muttered under his breath, knock it down and build a new campground.
That's what I said about the ball diamond. I said,
But you insinuated the flare is.
do the ball diamond and the flare derrick, build a new parking lot and make the campground bigger, and then that whole area.
There you go, Craig. Your job security is set. No worries over there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as we know, this building has some issues. It's a gem. And it has a lifespan, and we have to have solutions. So where do we want to go here? What do we want to do? Heather, give us the history.
I think everyone knows how I feel about it. I mean, like, until we can replace a community hall, I think that there's a lot of old community halls in Alberta that are maintained and the community loves them and they use them. And, you know, like some are older than the 70s, and until we can replace it, I think we keep it going. That's where I'm at.
Thank you. How do you old? I hiccuped halfway through saying, hey, old.
If we were to look at leasing it to a nonprofit organization, how long would the lease be for? Would it be good for a whole year? Fingers crossed, the furnace doesn't go.
Oh, I think that's your worship. Yeah, good question. I think what we try to look for there is really that as is. Right, so would that be year to year? I mean, you can see kind of those high level costs, totaling some 220,000. So, the risk to the other party would be put your stuff in there and then it breaks. We'd bring that back to council and, administration's perspective on that, I could recommend keeping it going.
Yeah. Cindy.
220,000 sounds like a lot until you look at the cost of building a community center. right? Which is, I think, where Heather's coming from. Yep. So that, it's kind of a bargain price, but it begs the question, do we need a community center and what do we have as options? And like, we have the school that has gymnasiums that are available for rent. Schools love extra money. Like, there's other things, but this is the one to me. This is the tough one. That's why I didn't want to do this one first. I would hate to not at least offer it to somebody that's willing, could use it on an as-is basis, because I don't know, it could be one of those things that stuff just lasts. I'm running a 1978 well pump that shouldn't have happened, and it just happened to last, right? And it might, and if a community group could use it, I would hate to just knock it down. I just know, especially going into election year, if we just knock down a building, everyone will say that's really wasteful when it costs like 10 million, 20 million to replace it, right? But I don't really, I know we need to cut budget items. And there are schools, we have 3 of them that have auditoriums.
And they serve alcohol.
That's true, it's alcohol, just don't drink, people.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go Brendan and then I'm gonna comment.
Outside of the, like, these are the the things that keep it running, how is it structurally? Cause there's nothing on here, like, we know that our public works building in old Black Diamond is structurally having some concerns. That's a major issue. But structurally, how does this building sit? Like, is it okay where it is? Because if the bones are okay, then we're just looking at upgrades that probably should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah, thanks, your worship. Maybe I'll just turn over to Craig to see if he has any comments on facilities.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Through the chair, it always seems like we can deliver all the bad news. I
just want to.
Functionally, the building is fine. Absolutely. It will need a new roof in the next 4 or 5 years. One of the problems with why we have such high energy costs on that building is it sits on a foundation that is open air. There's no insulation on under the floor. So the current HVAC or the furnaces, forced air furnaces, force all that air under the floor to the far end of the hall. So from the east end of the halls all the way to the west end. So by the time the warm air gets to that end, it's no longer warm, which is why we have the makeup air furnace hanging from the ceiling in the hall. That's really what's heating the hall. That's not the code. They'll look, it's sort of grandfathered as is, but if that furnace fails, code will not allow us to replace that here. Which means if that fails, we kind of have to look at options. It's either insulate the floor, seal the floor, or change the HVAC system so that it blows through the roof and drop in. All of which has significant cost to it. The HVAC system that's in there is also on its life cycle years. So, we are looking at heating systems on both ends of this facility that are tired. Hot water tank is tired, but everything that keeps that place operational for the winter months is of question. Okay, yeah, so I mean, the facility, yes, we can keep it functioning, we can keep it operational. But we're losing a lot of money operating it because it doesn't generate a lot of money. And the costs to keeping it running just keep going up every year.
And you bring such a great point there, that the building doesn't make us money. Could you list us one that does? Take all the time you need. I'll go with Brendan. Brendan, go ahead.
No, I appreciate it, Greg. Outside of anything, like any of these high level things happening is there money that needs to be put into it tomorrow or before winter hits? Or are we just in a kind of hold and wait position and we know that these things are gonna have to happen? All of them might happen this year, one might?
Yeah.
Is that where we're kind of at right now?
I think as where we're at right now, although I haven't initiated the furnaces yet, but I believe that we're operational. We're okay. There's nothing significant that we have to, at this point, I knock on wood, but at this point, no, there's nothing that I'm aware of. I have my building maintenance fellow and I have come up with a plan to seal all of the open air foundation ports, and we'll insulate and close those up. It may help a little bit. There is some fear that it might create some condensation under there, but we'll monitor and address what we can.
Thanks. Thank you for me.
Yeah, just finish it out for you guys, and I think we'll move on. Yeah.
You know, I don't like the fact that it's got a $12,500 deficit for 6 months of the year. That never looks good on my dime. That being said, I think I've mentioned this before. I grew up in the Tuxedo area of Calgary, and it was really nice to have a community center with an outdoor rink right beside it. But the community association took care of it. And, you know, I like option 2 here, to look to having a nonprofit lease it and operate that. And potentially they could, in the winter time, same what we do with the Lions, provide service to their outdoor ice pad. We could do that as part of a support for this outdoor rink, should that nonprofit organization want it as a package deal to support the community. I'd be worth looking into that.
Thank you for that. My thought is, we need to, keep 20,000 on the side in case we have any issues. I think we need to continue, having this available through the town. It is our only building, capable of actually holding an event. So I think we still need to keep it under our guise, as much as I do not like throwing good money at bad. We need to start a true conversation with the entire community. Square Butte Ranch, just down to 762, just did a massive renovation. That building is old.
And then they had water in.
They have sprayed rock wool as texture on their ceiling for fire code. Like it is something else to see, but they did a massive renovation, brand new kitchen, brand new floors, 2 bathroom renovations, and they did it all through fundraising and private donors stepping up. Now, obviously we got some rich ranchers in the area, but I think we need to have the honest conversation with the entire community through some of our public engagement that is definitely going to be forthcoming through our budget process, and say, hey, the reality is this is dead. What do you guys want to see? How big do you want it? And who else can be a partner? And I think we need to get on that train. And in the meantime, we just need to make this work. That's my thoughts. So I'm throwing it there. Did we have any motions?
Is that your motion?
Well, I mean, Jonathan made a point around 2, he didn't make a motion. I made my statement, so mine's out there as well, so I'll look for a motion.
I'll give you a motion, that, we agree to maintain the current operations of the Flare and Derrick and increase the budget to cover anticipated repairs to ensure it remains open, for that it remains open. Yeah, that's what the one I want.
The replacement cost is cigarettes, and to me, a great point.
Yeah.
We tear it down,
We're hooked and we got
nothing.
Okay, Cindy?
I think it really comes down to like the issue with the campground and the ball diamonds and the pool that's falling apart, that all of those things need a comprehensive plan for them. But if we just knock it down now without a good reason, we're gonna be seen as very wasteful.
Yep.
So although I wouldn't, I know you want to maintain current operations, like we do voting there and think, you know, if we need to have a big town hall, that is our only location unless we do a school. Which I do kind of like leasing if there was somebody that could use it, but if we haven't been approached by anybody. I don't know if there is anybody, that might just be wishful thinking.
Okay, we have a motion by Heather. I said my statement. Anyone else final thoughts? Jonathan?
So if my math is correct, up to this point, we've reduced 168,000 in expenses
Good man.
with what we've removed. I still want to ask Heather if there'd be a friendly amendment to first research potential to lease it, and if not, we maintain the operations. Because there are community organizations that might avail of that. And it'd be worth finding out as far as the initial stage of public engagement. What's the public feeling about the need to have a community center? That'd be great to find out. And we might get that answer. We put it out for lease, we hear back from no one, then we're just gonna maintain the operations through 2025.
No, I don't agree with the friendly amendment. I'd like
That's
the
fine.
motion to go forward that I have put forward. You guys can choose to vote against it or not. I think that it's important at this time and not to go down that. I don't know that there's a lot of nonprofit organizations that would lease it as is, but I think it's up to us to keep this building going now and then look at potentially a capital investment. I mean, if we are gonna build a new community recreation hall, it's gonna be $10 million and we don't have anything that we can really offer our residents right now. So I'd just like to maintain it for now and then go out to the public eventually and see if the community group could be organized to take care of things. But that's my motion. I'm not agreeable to a friendly amendment.
Thank you. Following process, Jonathan, you could make an amending motion as you stated, rather than asking the friendly. That's done now. So you could, if you wish, to make that and then have that voted on. And then we would proceed with whichever way that flows. Your call.
Okay.
Okay. In that case, any further comments, questions, concerns? We'll go all in favor. And we will all opposed. Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, thank you. That was a good debate. Moving on. Okay, now we're sailing now, guys. That was our big item. MDP steering committee members at large.
Thanks,
Commissioner
Worship.
Boom.
I'll turn over to Berna.
So we put out for, to the former members of the EAC and the MPC current members. And we had 4 people who indicated they were interested. They've had no extra people come forward. So that does leave you short to meet the terms of reference. So you can go ahead and appoint those 4. But we need to have this committee ready to go. So I would recommend the secondary motion as well to amend the terms of reference, and then we'll just bring the bylaw back finally on the second.
Is that option 2?
We need one and two.
Okay, I'll take one to begin.
Can I just
Oh,
ask
sure.
a question? Just a question for clarification for the public, because we've been hearing that nothing's been advertised. Was this advertised on our website?
It was not, it was, we were very clearly directed that it was MPC members and EDAC members.
All right, perfect. Thank you. I just want that clarity out there.
Just for the volume, it was council directed that the first options for the MDP committee for members at large were EDC and MDP.
Yeah, I
MPC
just wanted to
members. Yeah, no, I just want
get
to
it out
reiterate.
there on the video.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can give us that motion?
Yes, please.
Sure. So motion number 1, the council appoints these following members as large, as members at large, pardon me, to the Municipal Development Planning Steering Committee. I knew I was going to do that. And I do want to thank Jessica Harkin Fleming, Jackie Stickle, David Farren, and Gary Robb for their interest. And we look forward to having them serving with us.
That's beautiful. It's perfect. All in favor? Yeah. And that is carried. Thank you. Yes, please.
The council direct administration to amend bylaw 2023-13 to change section 4, membership and composition of the municipal development plan steering committee to 4 members at large and 4 members of council.
All right. All in favor? Thank you. And 9.6, CAO Adam Davy and CFO Vin Chena, who is still online, or is he gone to bed? Shall we phone him?
He's still there, your worship.
Go phone a friend. So I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Davy. And you're gonna go through the Q1 and 2, the strategic plan, and then post amalgamation report, and then we have 9.7. So floor is yours.
Thanks, worship. So to end on some positive news, we'll start with Q1, Q2 variance reporting from our CFO. Over to you, Ben.
Hello, Council. So this variance report is for the first 6 months of the year, and there's some of the variance which may get adjusted over the next 6 months or next 2 quarters. Then these are made up not with one amount. There are various amounts that consists of this total variance into based on these groups, different groups amount. The overall budget for this period is with a positive variance of 42,475, which is a good thing. And I would say that that each departments here, we are trying to identify still and learning if there are any missing pieces from the budget, and then we can learn from that process and maintain a better budget in the 2025. So by saying that, I will get into the, sorry for my sound, get into the variance report. So the first one is in the revenue, which we have under franchisee, we have a variance, favorable variance of 55,608. This is mainly because of the ATCO franchisee fees as well as the Fortis franchisee fee. We received more than what we budgeted for this period. Then the next one is the sale of goods. Under sale of goods, we have an unfavorable variance for this period. It's mainly because of the water consumption during this particular period. We got reduced. So the billing amount got reduced so that the revenue we got reduced to. So that is the next one. Then the grant, we have a favorable variance here for 66,379, which is portion of CRCB grant, which we received in 2023, and the work completed in the year 2024 by March. So that portion of that carry forward to this year. Then the fire department, we received some funds for the training and equipment grant. And the difference is because of we budgeted a intern grant for the planning department for 60,000. However, we hadn't approved for that grant. So based on the 6 months, 30,000 got rejected. Removed from that, and the net effect is the 66,379, which is a favorable variance. Then the next is other revenue. Other revenue is mainly with the fire department with calls for service and wildfire recoverables less than predicted for this reporting period, which we know that the Jasper and all the other money is going to come. So we can expect in the next 6 months that amount will be going up. Another one is the investments, which we have a real favorable variance here. We got 160,513 variance, favorable variance. This is mainly because of the last 6 months, the interests were really high, and we got the best options. A couple of investments, we got around 6+% in interest rates, which was really high. This is the first half, and we can't expect that same trend going forward because the rates are coming down now. However, it's already better than what we expected, and it's a good favorable variance. Another one is the penalty donation, which again, we have a favorable variance. This includes, we received some fines, we received some donations, then we also have a favorable penalty revenue received more than what we anticipated. So overall, all these combinations together, we received around 83,109, which is again favorable. So that is the revenue side. When we move into the expense side, I will take the first one, which is the engineering and legal group. So we have an unfavorable variance here. That's due to some legal cost, which was not budgeted here. And that tend to be an unfavorable amount of 15,184 there. Another one is the materials and supplies. This is also an unfavorable variance. So one of the item is the fire department. We purchased a radio headset for trucks. However, we also received around 24,000 plus 5,000 in grant as well as in donation amount to offset some of these expenses. Then there are some additional expenses incurred during the road concrete work, and the pool chemical cost gone up. And due to these all combination of these amounts, we have an unfavorable variance for this period, which is $39,490. The vehicle repairs for this period also gone up. So that was unfavorable compared to our budget amount. Then the next is the equipment. That one also an unfavorable variance. It's mainly because of there are repairs in water reservoir repairs, inspection amounts, then the equipments repaired we purchased for the arena, road equipment repairs, all these amount, combination of all these things together, which came to as a unfavorable variance of $10,034. Then there is another unfavorable variance, which is the phone. This is mainly due to the replacement of old phones. Then there are some additional phones which we ordered, as well as some new staff joined. And all these result came as an unfavorable variance of 11,395 under the group of phone. Energy rates, which is comparatively up this time, and that's mainly because of carbon tax. That is one, and this is the actual year we compared to the 23. This is the actual year we are looking forward and want to capture the real expenses. And in terms of that, the utility is capturing the full 6 months expenses, so that the expenses is higher than what we budgeted so far. Another one is the insurance. The insurance amount is also high. This is mainly because of when we did the budget and we received the actual insurance premium after that. And there was an increase, but we couldn't, or we hadn't added the additional difference into that. And due to that, there is an increase in that budget compared to the budgeted amount. And the variance is 14,045. Then the IT also gone up. And mainly there are some new computers, some changes or additions to the new staff computers. Then there is an increase in Office 365 license, and there are some softwares. And because of all these reasons, and there is an unfavorable variance in IT budget, which is 39,062. And moving to the contracts, and there are some repairs happened, particularly in the distribution area as well as the sewer services. And due to these, excess than the budgeted amount. We have an unfavorable variance of $64,530. Then we also have some gain on disposable of assets, which is 13,475. One is an old generator from the fire side. Another one is an old water tank from the public works. With all this together, the combination of the revenue variance is the 271,375. And the total expense variance comes as over the budget, which is 228,900. The net effect with these two variants is comes as a positive variance of 42,475 for the last 6 months period.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Ben, for putting this together. You know, I hate seeing the unfavorable variances. There's so many variables, so I'm not gonna get into it. Question I do have though is where would it be right for us to show the unfavorable variance of our policing costs? Because we miscalculated the grant money. So I'm wondering why we're not showing that as an unfavorable variance. Why aren't we capturing that here?
So we put that one into the last December in case if we are getting that funds, so that will come into that quarter. So we hadn't captured that one here because of, you know, we are still, there are some uncertainty in case if we are receiving that funds, that will be as a gain. Otherwise, it will be coming in the last quarter in December.
Okay, thank you.
We're gonna have to put almost $250,000 in the if the year is not there.
Okay. Any other questions for Vin? CIO? Brendan?
Yeah, just a comment, and thanks, Ben and the team, for putting all this together. One of the big ones that sticks out to me that is kind of a pain is the, with the energy rates plus carbon tax impact at 34,000. Do we anticipate that number doubling by the end of the year, given that we're only 6 months in right now? That'd be like a 70,000 plus unfavorable variance in December. Would that be correct to assume that?
So to say that we can't say that because you know, the carbon tax, of course, there is that's a factor. However, during the summertime, the consumption may go down. That's the trend normally is, and maybe that will see as a better variance compared to this big amount in the next quarter. And so I believe that may offset a little bit in the next 6 months. However, not that much. We can look into the get some information well in advance from our utility provider for our budget for 2025 so that we can capture that in a proper way, as well as to compare this data of 6 months of 2024 so that we know where do we stand while making the 2025 budget.
Okay, great. And final comment, I was just looking at the strategic plan priorities and projects just below. No red there, so that's great to see. I don't know if that was the next item or if it was part of your presentation, but very well done. Love to see it, and thanks for joining us tonight, even though you're not doing super well. Hopefully you get better soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, council, if nothing else, we'll move on to the next item on CIO's report.
Yeah, thanks, your worship. Yeah, just a segue off of that. Yeah, strategic plan priorities and projects. Just a couple updates from the last time you saw it. Three main ones. So municipal development plan. So it's just changed to reflect the new deliverable date, which is Q3 of next year. So we're still targeting for August, September. Fire master plan originally was looking to carry on into 2025. We now believe it'll be finished by year end. And the other one mentioned previously was the water crossing replacement. So no bid came on. So now we're looking at grant opportunities, which may actually lower the cost. So once we have more to report on that, we'll bring it back. You'll see this as part of budget again to do a check-in for 2025.
Using the color map there, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead, Councilor Gordon.
Yeah, I love the clarity of this and the question I do have, just for information's sake. The municipal development plan, the cost for that is budgeted this year. There's not gonna be extra costs for next year. Are we anticipating extra costs for, because it says year 2025 is unbudgeted? I know you're doing that for that column,
Yeah.
but specifically MDP plan, is there expected extra cost for next year?
Yes, my understanding is that it was $200,000 thereabouts for 2024. Yeah, that would carry over. There'll be, of course, in-kind costs from now until then, but the actual consultant cost is
Is within this year's budget.
2024. Yeah,
Perfect.
but it'll carry over because it's 24.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hazel. Nothing, okay, yeah, we're good. We're good, perfect, let's move on to the post amalgamation report.
Thanks, your worship. Yeah, I guess, put the report together, certainly worth the read. I guess I'll just give you the 3 quick takeaways. Number 1, I just want to really commend council and administration of the day for embarking on this massive journey. It really goes without saying. I think that this is probably the most significant decision that the 2 previous towns amalgamating into one probably made within the last generation or more. So very much kudos to that. I think from my perspective, coming in as a neutral third party, it very much makes sense for amalgamation. I mean, it's they're just the fundamentals are there to amalgamate. At the same time, number 2, it does take time. Again, we are partway through the journey. I can appreciate, staff and council maybe having some fatigue moving forward, but just say keep the chins up because we've still got a few more years to go until we get to this new operating environment. And I think the third thing too, I just want to really articulate in the report too is it's just the timing, right? Amalgamation is not the reason why costs in some areas are going up, right? We just looked at carbon taxes, for example, in the one line item. Amalgamation really did hit at a time where you've had 4-decade high inflation, a cost of living crisis. So there's a lot of factors that goes into that. So all in all, we did put lessons learned in there too. And the hope is that other communities considering this can take those lessons on board. And really, if you look at the decision to amalgamate to completion, you're probably closer to 10 years. So, and I understand many folks around the table started those discussions. So, in closing, I think it was well done.
Good report. Yeah, that's awesome.
Comments, anyone?
You are.
Let's go, Councilor Hall.
Yeah, fantastic report.
Yeah.
The one part where I want to take like a big red highlighter was on the hiring an amalgamation manager. I think that was the biggest miss of the whole process, that we didn't just hire an amalgamation CAO. The whole process of having, that they require you to select a CAO and then the choosing between the 2 and then still having to have them work together was by far and away the biggest mistake. So, that to me, and then not doing amalgamation on January 1st when everybody's on Christmas holidays. That was completely unfair to our staff. To have that date. And we did it for the silly reason only of it sounded great and it was the audit, so we didn't have to do an extra audit. And that I don't think was worth the turmoil of having it, when our IT doesn't work and, MuniWares doesn't work and everybody at the companies are on holidays. So to me, those are my 2
That's pretty rough.
times if anybody's listening to this in the future. But yeah, thank you, staff.
Yeah. Jonathan.
Just a quick follow-up to that, I appreciate the report, and for those who've been involved in the negotiations right up to this point, both council side and administration side, there's some kudos that must be given, especially on the admin side. The work that you've done to get us to where we are today. One of our leading strategic priorities is effective in governance. And I have no problem announcing that in our community regularly. that we have an effective governance model set up. And I think that's kudos to those in this room to make sure that we are successful 10 years from now. You know, it's not a game, but it's a long-term impact that we get to have through amalgamation. Fortunately, there are many residents who understand that, and other residents want to know what the immediate wins are. And we do have immediate wins, and as we start realizing them, we'll start seeing the benefits as well. So thank you so much for an excellent report, and everyone, thank you so much for your diligence and staying with us too, by the way. It's good.
Hazel?
I
think.
thought the report, it was very common sense and put together very well and says it like it is, so I appreciate it.
Yep, totally agree. I think one of the biggest, you know, I was saying it for years and I'll say it again, that moving forward into the amalgamation, the planning for the future was always one of the key pins of making sure that we were ready for the growth that was going to come. And I think the timing is just bizarre that we see such interest in our community at this time. And we're in the housing crisis that we are, and we have such interest coming our way. So having a new team with a new vision, a new set of eyes, a new set of professionals ready for the future and all the changes that it brings is really refreshing to see. So just fantastic. And yeah, great report. I would like to see, as you suggested in here, in 3 years, having another report and see where we're at, you know, and just keep those small documents rolling. So maybe a CAO, you should have a little side folder where you're putting those notes.
Somebody does.
Challenges, probably not.
35 years, so he's still with us.
There you go.
It's big fun.
That's a big one. All right, 9.7 is our last item. And I closed my book, so what was it? We pulled it out.
Ben's report on the.
Oh, what did you want to hear on? Ben, are you still with us? Councillor Merton has a question for you for your report on the insurance, or Deputy Mayor, sorry, yes.
So the additionally insured, we have the Griffith Center listed as one of our additionally insured on our policy. So there's other groups in the community that are also looking at this. So if the Griffith Center is one that can come to the town, ask to be put on their insurance as an additionally insured, are we gonna start accepting other groups? And
Yeah, so to answer that, yeah.
And I'm also wondering, should council, say they would like to cancel this? Would the Griffith Center receive a transition time? To be able to go out and find a new provider?
Worship, maybe I'll just jump in there. So to understand the first part of the question, could other groups come and ask?
Yeah.
They could, that would come to council. My recommendation would be no. Number two, the second one, could the Griffiths Memorial Center Association, could we remove them? That would be a resolution of council. And yes, I would recommend a time period, perhaps for the remainder of the year.
I guess this is what I'm asking is for council to have a discussion to see if you want to continue to have the Griffith Center on as an additional insurance. Under
So
policy.
So both these two ANIs, both we continued the same way from the previous two towns. So both the towns previously were having these two ANIs. So the Diamond Valley, when we amalgamated, we continued the same way. And the main, how we determine we can absorb into our own premium or insurance system is that group need to be a non-profit as well as group need to do some work for the community. So that's the main definition of that.
Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, Vin, I just have a point of clarification. And when you broke down the amount of the Sheep River Library Board,
yeah,
there was if I'm not mistaken, about 123 for property coverages. Could you explain that? Yeah, it's what I'm double checking.
So there are two
Is that,
amounts.
because there are three amounts, right? There's a liability, there's a
Yeah.
directors and officers, and then there was property. My assumption is that that property is reflective of the tenant policy. Would that be more accurate?
So for the library, that is for the their content coverage. So that comes under the property, and that's why it got a, that's why it is got a reduced amount compared to the property actually we insured for the Sheep River.
So
Sorry,
the
Griffith
question
Memorial.
then, we didn't get that same breakdown for the Griffiths Memorial Center. I'd be interested to know, do you have that on file what their property coverage is? Because they own that building, right?
They own their building, yeah.
So do you have that breakdown there for me?
Yeah.
As how much they're paying for the property?
Yeah, so their property insurance is 1111.96, and their bond and crime is 378.01. General liability is 733.36. The total comes to.
And what's the
Total comes-
replacement cost on their dwelling there, on their building? Do
I
you have
have
that
to,
policy information there?
no, not with me right now, but I can look into that and we'll come back to you.
Yeah, because that's kind of where I would want to have the question is what's the valuation of that property for insurance purposes? And that'll give me some greater insight onto whether or not I want to continue. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Making sense, Heather?
I just don't think that any building that we don't own, we should be, that's a real liability for us. And so, like, we own the library and it's mandated that the library board have a board of directors and that we are a part of it. Through the MGA, through the Library Act. Griffith Center, we're insuring their building. We don't insure Neighbors Valley Neighbors Club, and they own their building. So I'm still fine with the Sheep River Library Board, but I also think the Sheep River Library Board can afford to insure contents. Maybe the director's insurance and stuff is maybe a bit different, but it's also mandated by the province that they have that insurance. So, but the Griffith Center, I don't agree with that at all.
Books are insured by your.
Yeah.
Yeah. Computers.
The building is ours. Big mouth.
That the town notifies Griffiths Memorial Center Association that we will be discontinuing offering an ANI to them, insurance policy to them as of January 1st, 2025. Is that enough time?
Yes. Just as a correction, so the policy is starting from November 2024, they will start as a new policy.
Okay, yeah, after next, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I reached out to some of the experts in my team because of, my background in insurance. And they very much warned, a lot of municipalities do this, but the risk is not worth it.
No.
And so, especially when the buildings are not owned by us, so I would fully support this motion. However, knowing the work that the Griffith Center does, I wonder if we would entertain a transition period of a gradual reduction where over time we reduce it, say we go from 100% down to 0, but we do that over time just to support the Griffith Center because of their nature of their income right now.
Isn't that kind of like being pregnant or not pregnant? Like you're either one or the other, you're you're not.
It's from my perspective.
Ford Valley Neighbors Club.
Yeah, but from my perspective, if we cut them off, like cut the umbilical cord and that's enough. I don't want to put them in a negative. And I just wonder, because they've been supported for so long, if it wouldn't be beneficial for us, kind of the reason we don't want to top down the Flare and Derrick. There are local people who use the Griffith Center. I don't want to see them in a financial bind. The Valley Neighbors Club doesn't have that same. Sheep Creek Arts Council doesn't have that same financial pressure. the Griffith Center has that financial pressure. And so, well, based on the conversations I've had with some of the board members, I disagree. And so, I feel that we could support them. I would like to. That would be that we reduce the amount of support over the next 14 months to next November, when that policy renews in 2025. So that by the end of the third quarter, the final quarter, let's say, what is that? August of next year, we're cutting them off. That would be my advice.
I'd be happy to amend it that instead of it being this November, it's the next November. So that they have an extra little bit of time
That's what I'm
to increase their fundraising efforts to cover, because they are also just replacing their roof. So we have, but I can't see going 50%, like, I think we just do it and extend the deadline. If council's okay with that, I would change that to November 2025. Whatever the deadline date is in November 2025.
Even said it was November.
Yes.
So before you start writing things down, there's friendly amendments coming here.
I should just be.
Yeah, I'm gonna suggest something. I think you stick with the November deadline. I do understand the pressures that you're speaking of, but let's make it clean. Make it November, it's done. And we supply the appropriate amount through a grant on the budget line, and they can pay for their own with that money. And then they're clear, we say, you know, we don't want to leave you hanging, so we're gonna do you a solid. We'll give you this one-time shot. Yep, to cut it in half, but then we're not dragging it on for another 14 to 15 months. It's done in November. Policy changes, and we give them a little.
They will be paying significantly higher when they go out to market for this. And so I don't want to get into, well, you cut us off and now we have to go pay a $5,000 policy. So we want you to support us in $5,000. I would rather just give them the extra time or them to adjust their membership fees and such, or we can just do it this November, and you can vote on, everyone can vote on that, but I
see what you're saying. Depending, but I don't know how much they're gonna get charged on the outside
That's what I'm
market.
asking for replacement. Do you have that detail there, Vin?
just cut it off this year, or cut it off next year, that's the question. And
For next year.
with their roof replacement.
Yeah, I support next year. It gives them lots of time.
It's the end of August already, by the time the notice gets out, that's fine to ensure.
Okay, so your motion stands
November 2025.
November 2025. All right, any further comments? All in favor? All opposed? And motion carries. All right. Thank you. Now we're done, right?
I think so.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending. Lisa.